The Foundation Years Volume 1, The Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Introduction. We believe that the offer of integration is hypocritical and is made by those who are trying to deceive the black people into believing that their 400-year-old open enemies of freedom, justice, and equality are all of a sudden their friends. Furthermore, we believe that such deception is intended to prevent black people from realizing that the time in history has arrived for the separation from the whites of this nation. If the white people are truthful about their professed friendship towards the so-called Negro, they can prove it by dividing up America with their slaves. We do not believe that America will ever be able to furnish enough jobs for her own millions of unemployed, in addition to jobs for the 20 million, now approximately 40 to 50 million black people as well. The Muslim Program, Belief 9. This is one of the Muslim beliefs established by Elijah Muhammad, Messenger of Allah. We, his followers, believe as he believes. Within the past 40 years or so, America has stepped up its campaign of trying to convince blacks in America that they want to live side by side, ride the bus side by side, go to school side by side, work side by side, eat, drink, and intermarry. Yet, one must still ask if after all this an introduction, tolerance, and now dissipation of affirmative action, have blacks to date got anything of significance? For many of the well-to-do blacks in America, it seems that the greatest aspiration they have is to do exactly as their former slave masters do, even to intermarrying with them. Accompanying these steps is the acquired mindset and new politically correct loaded language that all people have red blood and that we therefore are all part of one human family. Nothing could be further from the truth. Have we forgotten, for those who have known at any point, that the United States of America is an experiment in democracy? Who said the experiment was over? If one looks closely at the meager tokenism offered to symbolize freedom, justice, and equality for the once slaves here in America, it will insult anyone's intelligence. White America had never been serious at offering anything to blacks that would in essence represent, nor lead to, self-independence. Their offers have been and still are nothing more than pacification. There has never been, and still isn't, any substance to what they've offered their once slaves to compensate them for the losses incurred as a result of not only forced chattel slavery, but the systematic robbery of their God-given identity and human rights. When looking at what's being offered by this country in comparison to what has been taken, one can start seeing the hypocrisy. I say start here, because it is only the tip of the iceberg. Elijah Muhammad, Messenger of Allah, had pointed out for over 40 years the true interpretations of biblical as well as Quranic scripture, wherein both books speaks of a time when God himself would come and raise up, or resurrect, a dead people. What we didn't understand is that it would not be a physically dead people, but a people who had been mentally dead. This mental death would be a direct result of slavery in America, and as before mentioned, the blacks having been systematically robbed of their self-knowledge, original names, language, culture, religion, and God, consequently rendered them categorically dead when it came to knowing, functioning, or acting like civilized humans. In fact, the mental robbery coupled with a government system which made it law to treat them as livestock and chattel, this effectively rendered them on the level of beast, thus property. The scriptures further prophesied that one day God would come to this people and raise them up from this mental death. Due to the fact that the slave master didn't want any foreigners near his property, this wise God came like a thief in the night without observation while men slept. Having come among the people, he didn't attempt to raise them all himself, but to search for one to teach, and that one was missioned to teach the rest. The God who was to come and did come is Allah God, Master Fard Muhammad, and the one he raised up first, otherwise known as the first, begotten of the dead, is none other than Elijah Muhammad, Messenger of Allah God. God's coming, finding and raising up a people, whom the Bible refers to as lost sheep, is prophesied to take place approximately 400 years after them being in slavery, whereas after that time, he would come. His intent was to raise a messenger, and mission that messenger to restore us to what we once were before being made slaves, re-educated us back into the knowledge of ourselves, civilize us, dignify us, and qualify us to be fit once again to interact with other civilized nations as an independent nation, which means a total and complete separation from the slave master and the slave master's children. Our own personal experiences with white America has proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that they are disagreeable to live with in peace. However, what Elijah Muhammad, Messenger of Allah, has pointed out is that the whites know scripture too, and know that this is the time for separation of blacks and whites, and they want to keep us among them as a prey. Consequently, they are pushing the offer of integration, not for the purpose of reconciliation or atonement, but to cause as many of his once slaves and their children to go down with him and his country. Integration is bait for those who have wanted to be accepted by America all their lives, and now feel their time to take part in America has now arrived. To sum this relationship up is like being a slave at the bottom of a large luxurious boat for all of your life, and now you and the slave master now see another boat sail towards you with black people in control, and instead of your slave master either allowing you to own a place on his boat, which you and your parents built with free labor, or helping you to relocate on the boat coming for you with your people, he opens up his boat to you and allows you to come up to the boat, puts you third in charge of driving something mentally unchallenging, and lets you wear one of his old captain's hats, then tells you that the boat now belongs to you too. Your mind is already set for that, and it would be natural to understand if you would accept that. But the deception comes in when the white man knows that he brought you up top because he didn't. He wants you to see the large hole at the bottom, and if he allows you to believe that the boat is as much yours as his, then you'll fight harder for it than he would. This in essence causes the once slave to turn enemy against his own salvation and people, when in fact this is the time of his own independence and freedom. The slave master knows that the slave is completely ignorant as to what true freedom is, and therefore keeps him blind, deaf, and dumb to that knowledge and truth that would enable the slave to make an intelligent decision. So today, whites are permitting blacks to participate in a vast number of posts, even to government. They have become so confident in their deception, they will even allow once slaves to run for the highest office in the land. Reverend Jesse Jackson ran twice, and now they're working on the experiment of Colin Powell. The past few elections would make one believe that of all the highly qualified potential nation builders our race has to offer, we can find none to send to represent us, but a couple of homeless Baptist preachers, who have no more to their credit than sleeping in the Lincoln Suite at the House at the invitation of the president, who as well was accompanied by someone other than his wife, or twisting the arms of corporations to extort money from them in the name of justice for their brethren. This shouldn't come as a surprise, because their predecessors trained them this way. Historically, their greatest project is the civil rights movement. It is programmed common knowledge that the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. spearheaded this movement and eventually staged the March on Washington. However, the common man's knowledge is in need of correction. It was the government of America who made it possible for Negro once slaves, ignorant lower-class whites, and poor immigrants to march and make up what is known as the civil rights movement. Martin Luther King didn't have that kind of money, nor did he have that type of logistical background and independent thinking necessary to pull that off. In fact, in the 60s, if the government wasn't with it, it didn't happen, at least not more than once. To this day, if it wasn't for government and government money, none of this civil rights organization would be standing. These organizations are tolerated, mainly because it diverts attention from the real program of independence for so-called Negroes that are only taught by Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam. It is human rights, of which we are being deprived, the right of self-determination, the rights of freedom, justice, and equality and independence. We are not seeking to stay with white people because God has said that he intended to destroy this country. God's coming and raising one to teach the rest is for the purpose of separating us and putting us with our own kind. The white man's ploy of integration is for the purpose of deceiving as many of us as he can to stay with him so he can effectively take a final swipe at killing as many of us as he can. This too is substantiated by the long track record of the white man's history. White scientists are constantly trying to prove that blacks are genetically inferior to whites. There are many studies underway trying to prove that blacks have a genetic inclination for crime and violence. In other words, they are trying to prove that blacks are naturally criminal. This attempt is not surprising, for white America has been putting lies into law for years, which they say is based on some study. What you can expect is that regardless of what finding they develop, they would have still cultivated the thought amongst their people. By highlighting every negative thing they can about blacks in their media, they will be manufacturing a self-fulfilling prophecy themselves. You had heard that the O.J. verdict had to be along racial lines, because since the jury was predominantly black, they didn't want to convict their brother. Their emotions kept them from rendering a just verdict. There are no people on the planet who are more racist than white people, regardless where you find them or what time. Their own history bears out over and over again that not only have they killed millions of darker peoples of the earth, but they have done so for the purpose of colonialization, exploitation, and eventually domination as world rulers. If there is anyone who knows racism, natural criminal inclination, and ethnocentricity, belief that one's ethnicity is superior to others, whites collectively have written the book. To get the black people of America to see that whites worldwide are their natural enemy is very difficult. One of the best characterizations to illustrate the seriousness of this issue can be depicted in a relationship between a large bird of prey and a lamb. The German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, 1844 to 1900, wrote, "There is nothing very odd about lambs disliking birds of prey. But this is no reason for holding it against large birds of prey that they carry off lambs. And when the lambs whisper among themselves, "These birds of prey are evil," and does this not give us a right to say that whatever is the opposite of a bird of prey must be good? There is nothing intrinsically wrong with such an argument, though the birds of prey will look somewhat quizzically and say, "We have nothing against these good lambs. In fact, we love them. Nothing tastes better than a tender lamb." The moral of this observation is that whites understand their relationship to us, and we have been intentionally blinded of the right kind of education which would make us mindful of them. Consequently, it puts us in the position of taking our open enemies for friends, and instead of securing an existence that would sustain our way of life. We have a history of being eaten on a daily basis and being satisfied with just begging for the right to choose when we will be eaten. Why continue marching to Washington asking the birds of prey to stop eating lambs and try grass for a change? To do so is not natural. The offer of integration is a ploy or trick to divert from your ship that has come for you in exchange for theirs, which no longer has a bottom. They know this, which is why they finally offer it you as a last swipe of vindictiveness and enmity for you. This book points out the brutal and realistic interchange between them and us and how they think. The basis of their treatment of us is the natural course of their nature, which is why it is perpetuated regardless of geography or time. Yet, the time would bring about a change, and instead of fighting our way into begging for a place near them, we are faced with the choice of fighting for a place of our own, with God's help. Chapter 1. Allah comes from heaven into hell since the coming of our Savior, the Mahdi, the one spoken of in the religious scriptures of the past as the son of man and the Messiah, who came in the person of Master Fard Muhammad. Many great and wonderful events have taken place among our people, so-called Negroes of America. The majority of my people have not realized the blessings we are receiving or the great love that Almighty Allah has for us. There is none who loves us to the equal of our Savior, Master Fard Muhammad, God in person. He alone came into this part of the earth filled with all manner of evil and corruption to reach us the ways of righteousness. For this is the land, America, that is like unto ancient Babylon, which was destroyed because of her sins and corruption. Allah comes from heaven into hell. He, Allah, came out of heaven into hell, North America, to save us from destruction that is hovering above this nation. America's inescapable and timely end is set as in the rising and setting of the sun. As I have made clear in my last 2 articles, we of all people and of all nations did not know who we were before the coming of Allah. Therefore, we have been open prey to our enemies, white race. In fact, all nations of the earth have taken advantage of the poor black man and woman in the mud in the part of the earth. Though our first parents brought to this country were not ignorant to the knowledge of themselves, they were soon either killed by the white slave masters or died from grief. The slave masters then subjected our foreparents' children to their filthy lust and wicked, deceiving teachings. Thus, we have been reared today from the soil of corruption and from the seed of their hate, murder, violence, and blood. It is not easy to separate you from their evil influence and practices when you believe all the lies the slave masters taught us about ourselves during these past 400 years. Lost and Found Nation of Islam. We so-called Negroes have been named the Lost and Found Nation of Islam, a name or title given to us by the religious scientists of the East to describe so-called Negroes of America who would be lost for over 400 years and who in the last days of this present world would be found wandering blindly in a strange land like helpless lambs in the midst of ravaging wolves. If you are yet in doubt as to the truth of this history, I ask you to name another people who have been lost from their native land and are presently living in a foreign land with no desire to return home because the enemy who captured them has killed within them to reclaim their own. Name another people who do not know their native tongue and speak only the master's language. What other people besides so-called Negroes have the religion and history of that people been so concealed and hidden, leaving no possible chance for this knowledge to escape except by the will and power of God Himself? There are no other people who fit this description but the so-called American Negroes. Chapter 2. Allah says, accept your own. The acceptance of one's own is justified by the law of justice as an act of self-pride and intelligence. If we object to the acceptance of our own, whose own can we accept without being classified as fools without self-pride? Self comes first by all civilized people. What is our own? Spiritually, Allah answers that we are the righteous and were made other than righteous by the devils who enslaved us and robbed us of the knowledge of self and our own. If Allah, God, has numbered us as being members of the righteous nation, the original, the first people in the sun, then our own includes everything in the sun. Lost and found people, the whole of the universe. We are recognized throughout Asia and Africa today as being their lost and found people. Mr. Lomax learned this on his recent visit to Africa seeking the inside story of his people for his slave masters. Most so-called Negro journalists are only the devil's informers of the secrets of the black man. The Asiatic and the African are now closing their doors against all so-called American Negroes, except those who confess Islam, the Muslims. The Negro leadership, both religious and political, because of their love for the white race, white Christianity, and their hatred of the black nation and their religion Islam, the true religion of God, are rejected by the Islamic world, which includes Asia and Africa. Made to serve enemy, we must agree on common sense, that we were brought here by our enemies, the white race, and made to serve them. We are the product of our enemies' own makings. Whatever we are today, it is the work of our enemies, the white race. Today, they despise and hate us, the product of their own making. They scorn, make mock of our laziness, ignorance, filthiness, drunkenness, and our hatred of each other. Since the black man of Africa and Asia are not such people as we are, then who is to blame? They, white race, spent 400 years in making the so-called Negroes what they are today. Allah, God, desires to make us a people for himself, and if we submit to him, he will give us back our own, the mastery of the universe. We cannot exist further other than our own, for there will not exist other than our own, after this great final war between Allah and the devils. Height of ignorance, the desire and want of the black man and woman of America to mix blood with the devils is the height of ignorance. Nearly 90% of the so-called Negroes would forgive the devils for the evils done to their parents and selves today, if the devils only accept them as his own even. The preachers, who should know that there is no such thing as a forgiving of the devils by Allah God, preach that their people should love the devils and forget the past. Allah cannot forgive the devils and keep his promise to the prophets, that he would destroy Satan, the devil, who had deceived the nations of the earth. Why not accept your own? You are the best, the most beautiful, the most powerful, the first and the last. Love your own and keep your own. Chapter 3. America will destroy herself, for thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven, I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. This throne represents a false religion, opposing the true religion. I sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. Verse 13. Interpretation here. Satan, the devil, makes an attempt to equal himself with Allah Jehovah, who created the heavens and the earth. Satan had no part in the creation of the heavens and earth, therefore cannot ever be the equal of Allah in power. But in his heart, he secretly believes that he can with his newly acquired knowledge of gravitation and the power of the atoms. Satan believes that he has conquered water, land, air. Now he seeks to conquer the space to get out of the confines of the gravitation of earth, and he thinks he will be independent to the power of Allah to destroy him and to be Allah's equal in power over life on the earth. Satan exalts himself, he makes or exalts himself above the very chief scientists, the stars of God, of Allah's. In wisdom, he seeks to establish and mount his religion and followers above the true religion and follower of Allah God. He will sit upon the mount of the congregation, make himself like God over the people, the vice-regent of God in the sides of the north. Not in the east, the holy city of Mecca, where the congregation of Allah assembles the Muslims. It is the religion of Christianity, with its head in Rome called the Pope or Father of the Christian Church, who has tried to set organized Christianity above the true religion of Allah, Islam, and to turn the people from the spiritual center of Allah's Mecca, Arabia. Had army of elephants, the Pope tried to do this even by war in the year 570 AD, with Abraha, the emperor of Ethiopia, with an army mounted on elephants. As history shows, this was a miserable failure. They may, according to the Bible, Reverend 29 attempt to attack the holy city Mecca again by air at their final end. But that too will be a failure. The religious history of Rome shows many false gods at its head. She is backed by the wealth and might of the white race. See Reverend 17, 1-7. Mecca is backed also by wealth and power, but of Allah and the nation of Islam, for which every Muslim on the planet Earth would die before they would allow any nation or nations to attack and destroy the city. The devils have always desired to be the rulers of the people of God. This is the nature in which they were created, grafted. The devils were given the power to rule the righteous people of the earth for 6,000 years. Now that time is up, but they desire to remain the rulers of the people. This desire cannot be removed from them by just telling them their time is up. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. They dress like the righteous and claim to be worshippers of God and one of his prophets. Jesus is verse 14. It is the Most High Allah God in person, who is high above the clouds on a man-made planet from the earth. Its machination cannot be equaled by the devil scientists. Took 20 years. It took the original machinists 20 years to build the mother plane that you see today, flying through space and stars at night at a speed and height that the devils cannot ever be able to attain. Isaiah chapter 14:13. 14 is the root of the prophecy. In Thessalonians chapter 2, 4-12, the description fits the white race well in their works of trying to ascend to outer space planets, and their religion, Christianity, and their calling the heads of the church, Father. So, my people, I warn you, do not be deceived by the devils and their great showing of tricks of which you may think them to be the equal of Allah God and the angels of Allah God. Note, the in chapter of Thessalonians says that the coming of God is after the workings of Satan the devils and with all their deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they received not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. Verse 10. It is the so-called Negroes who are referred to in the words, they received not the love of the truth, whom the white race has deceived. The truth that the so-called Negroes are afraid to believe is the truth of the white race being the real devils, the ever enemies of Allah, the prophets, and the original nation of the earth. The black, brown, yellow, and red races. Chapter 4, an evil and indecent race, whites. The people of paradise who followed Jacob 6,000 years ago had no idea that he intended to disgrace and destroy them. He was cast out and doomed to total destruction. He carried with him 59.999 original black people. This is the devil's same intentions today, to deceive and tempt the original black people here in America to go with them to their certain doom. This is in the minds of white Americans' religion, tempting and deceiving the so-called Negroes to make them deserving of hellfire with them. My people, I am warning you. The devils are now using one of their greatest weapons, temptation, to destroy the black people, or cause them to take part in their doom which was prepared for them the very day they were created. They are aware of you, they see you, but you do not see them. Though Allah in these last few years has manifested them to you and me, your love for our enemies, the devils, is so great that you are blinded and cannot see them as devils. They are the enemies of God and the entire black nation. Real devils are enemies. You dispute the truth of them being the real devils, the enemies. You are even fools enough to teach the love and worship of them to your own children. It is a shame and a disgrace. You become so displeased with God and His servant for teaching you the truth of them that you call the truth hate, or rather charge the messenger of God with teaching you to hate white people. The devils, your hopes in making such charge against the messenger is that maybe the devils will put a stop to such true teachings, even by imprisoning or killing him and his followers as the enemies of God's messengers did in the past. I am afraid you are going to be disappointed in your ignorant and wicked wish for your flesh and blood. Today the bearer of truth is protected by his sender, Allah, to whom be praise forever. I only desire to see you saved from that which you have no part, only that which you take of yourself. I warn you against letting this evil tempter tempt you into their world of evil and indecency that you may share their doom. Filthy wicked show the so-called Christian race, the devils, are putting on one of their most filthy, most wicked shows that have ever been produced by a human being. They sing filthy love songs, filthy kissing and dancing, showing off their nude bodies on the television to your families to incite the evil, filthy, immoral practices into your children and yourself. The Bible and Holy Quran both warn us against accepting these devils' filthy temptations. Read Bible, Luke 8:13, James 1:12, Matt 26:4-1, Dut 4:30, Reverend 3:10. There is much more you may study that you might know the devils who you in the past have not known, but now the truth has come to us from the Lord of the worlds. Why should they now tempt us after seeing and having knowledge of the evil, filthy doings? The Christians or devils display no shame. They are bold and shyless, they are pig-eaters, alcohol drinkers which help make them shameless. They go indecently dressed, according to the Holy Quran 7:17,202,126. And it Quran warns us of the shame devils deceived our fathers in paradise 6,000 years ago. They devils led them out on an island into the Aegean Sea, stripped them of both the clothing that covered their shame and the wisdom and knowledge of themselves and God. And today they, the devils, are playing the same trick on you and me and the whole of the black nations. Read the following verses of the Holy Quran. O children of Adam, we have indeed sent down to you clothing to cover your shame, and clothing for beauty, and clothing that guards against evil. That is the best. This is of the messages of Allah, that they may be mindful, not the devils the white race seduce you, as He expelled your parents from the garden, pulling off from them their clothing that He might show them their shame. He sees you, He as well as His host from whence you see them not. Electronic devices make this possible. Surely we have made the devils to be the friends of the disbelievers. 7:26-27. Chapter 5. Battle in the Sky. The battle in the sky is near. The vision of Ezekiel's wheel in a wheel is true if carefully understood. There is a similar wheel in the sky today which very well answers the description of Ezekiel's vision. This wheel corresponds in a way with the spheres of spheres called the universe. The maker of the universe is Allah God, the father of the black nation, which includes the brown, yellow, and red people. The Great Wheel, which many of us see in the sky today, is not so much a wheel as one may think in such terms, but rather a plane made like a wheel. This wheel-like plane, its like was never before seen. You cannot build one like it and get the same result. Your brains are limited. If you would make one to look like it, you could not get it up off the earth into outer space. The similar Ezekiel's wheel is a masterpiece of mechanics. Maybe I should not say the wheel is similar to Ezekiel's vision of a wheel, but that Ezekiel's vision has become a reality. His vision of the wheel included hints on the great wisdom of Almighty God, Allah, that really He is the maker of the universe, and reveals just where and how the decisive battle would take place in the sky. When guns and shells took the place of the sword, man's best defense against such weapons was a trench ditch. Fulsome gas and liquid fire brought him out. Today he has left the surface for the sky to destroy his enemy by dropping and exploding bombs on each other. All this was known in the days of Ezekiel, and God revealed it to him, that through Ezekiel, we might know what to expect at the end of this world. The originator and his people, the original black people, are supremely wise. Today we see the white race preparing for the sky battle to determine who shall remain and rule this earth, black or white. In the battle between God and the disbelievers in the days of Noah, the victor's weapon was water. He used fire in the case of Sodom and Gomorrah. In the battle against Pharaoh, he used 10 different weapons that included fire, water, hailstorms, and great armies of the insect world in droughts, and finally plagued them with death. The Holy Quran says that the chastisement of Pharaoh was like that which God would use against his enemies in the last days. Throughout the Bible and Holy Quran teachings on the judgment and destruction of the enemies, fire will be used as the last weapon. The earth's greatest arms are fire and water. The whole of its atmosphere is made up of fire and water and gases. It serves as a protected coat for arms against any falling fragments from her neighbors. Ezekiel saw wheels in the middle of a wheel. This is true. The universe in the universe. It is made up of revolving sphere. There are wheels in the wheel. The present wheel-shaped plane, known as the mother of planes, is 1/2 mile by 1/2 mile and is the largest mechanical man-made object in the sky. It is a small human planet made for the purpose to destroy the present world of the enemies of Allah. The cost to build such a plane is staggering. The finest brains were used to build it. She is capable of staying in outer space 6 to 12 months at a time without coming into the Earth's gravity. It carries 1,500 bombing planes with the most deadliest explosives, the type used in bringing up mountains on the Earth. The very same method is to be used in the destruction of this world. The bombs are equipped with motors, and the toughest of steel was used in making them. This steel drills and takes the bombs into the earth at a depth of 1 mile and is timed not to explode until it reaches 1 mile into the earth. This explosion produces a mountain 1 mile high. Not one bomb will fall into water. They will all fall on cities. As Ezekiel saw and heard in his vision of it, chapter 10:2, the plane is terrible. It is seen, but do not think of trying to attack it. That would be suicide. The small circular-made planes called flying saucers, which are so much talked of being seen, could be from this mother plane, of which Mr. Kehoe claims in his book that he saw. This is only some of things in store for the white man's evil world. Watch and read this article, for it is the truth. Believe it or believe it not. This is to warn you and me to fly to our own God and people. Chapter 6. Black Muslim leader addresses 5,000. Muhammad predicts complete separation of U.S. Negroes. Whites by end of decade. Elijah Muhammad told 5,000 local members of his Black Muslim sect Sunday that Negroes in the United States will separate themselves completely from the whites, their enemies, by the end of this decade. It was the black supremacy leader's first appearance in Los Angeles in 4 years. He makes his headquarters in Chicago. There will be a resurrection of the dead of our people by 1970, Muhammad said from an Olympic Auditorium Speaks platform he shared with heavyweight boxing champion Cassius Clay and other sect leaders. Clay tells Conversion Muhammad, surrounded by a guard of 50 men that was changed 3 times during his talk, reiterated his position that the white race is evil and that there can be no justice for Negroes in the United States. Muhammad said that time is running out for the American Negro to make his decision to turn his back on the white. You must quickly make a choice between God and Satan, he said. Clay, a sect member, who calls himself Muhammad Ali, said it was Elijah Muhammad who made him boxing champion. He taught me how to talk, Clay said, and it was my talking that won the championship for me. The boxer said that in 1960 he smoked, drank, and had 100 girlfriends. Newsmen searched. I said then, Clay continued, if I get to be champion, I'm going to get me one of those white ladies. The fighter said that after listening to the voice of Elijah Muhammad, though, he realized the white race was inferior to the Negro and gave up vices taught by the whites. Newsmen were the only whites allowed into the auditorium. They were thoroughly searched for weapons and were not allowed to enter unless they turned in matches and penknives. Non-Muslim Negroes also were searched before they were admitted. Although Mexican Americans were given a special invitation to attend the meeting, none could be seen in the audience. Chapter 7. The blindness of the Negro preachers. Allah God has brought to us the light of truth. This light the devil's white race hoped to put out with the help of the mentally blind, deaf and dumb Negro preachers. Just as Pharaoh thought he would be able to put out the light of Allah, Jehovah, that he kindled in Israel through his servant Moses with the help of his spiritually blind magicians, preachers. But they met with Musa, Moses, Allah's servant, there. The false light of the magicians was put out by the true light of Allah, Jehovah. This king had no love for Israel, just as the President of America and the American citizens have no love for their so-called Negroes. Pharaoh was afraid of the light that was kindled in Israel by Allah, Jehovah, though his servant Musa, Moses, so that he became angry. He began to plan the death of Musa and the future of Israel by killing off the male babies of Israel. He was afraid, says the Holy Quran, that the light of truth preached by Musa, Moses, would change Israel's beliefs in Pharaoh's false religion, which he had made Israel believe. So it is with this modern Egypt, America, and its rulers and people. They know they have blinded the poor so-called Negroes to the knowledge of truth. They pose as divine representatives to the black man, while at the same time being the real devils, leading the Negroes away from the true God and true religion into a false religion. They mislead them under the name of a true prophet of Allah, named Jesus. These devil-made and hand-picked leaders and preachers of our poor people, the devils have made to help crush and put out the real light of truth revealed to me from Allah in the person of Master Fard Muhammad. He, Allah, is the Negroes' long-awaited Jesus Christ, our Savior and Deliverer and the crusher of our enemies, the devils. It was made manifest how rotten, blind, and fearful the devil-made preachers are on September 10, 1961, at Griffith Stadium in Washington, D.C., on the subject, Christianity versus Islam. There, Elder Lightfoot Solomon Michaud made no attempts to challenge the truth that I used in condemning Christianity as a divinely revealed religion, and no attempts to challenge me that Jesus was not the founder of the religion of Christianity, that he, Jesus, was only a prophet, as Moses and the prophets that followed in history after Moses, and Jesus was not the Christ. He wasn't the Son of God any more than any other righteous original man. It is false and wrong to accuse God of getting a son out of wedlock, and it is false to believe that God is a spirit, while all of God's people are made of flesh and blood. In secret, this Elder Michaud had agreed at my home that Thursday before the 10th of September that he believed in what I was teaching and that he believed the white man to be the devil. But when he spoke behind me that Sunday, there were devils sitting in the meeting, and he, Michaud, wanted their friendship, so he turned to them and shouted, "I love white people." Such double-crossing hypocrite preachers cannot be trusted with good leadership, for they're already blind, deaf, and dumb people. According to some newspapers and magazines, Reverend Martin Luther King say that he doesn't like the black Muslims' basic beliefs, black supremacy, because, he says, black supremacy is as bad as white supremacy. Reverend King, in such words, makes himself either neutral or a hypocrite on both sides, the black and white nation, due to his fear of the devils. The Negro preachers never speak, actually, the truth of what is in them. He speaks the way he thinks will please the white devils. He cares not for the friendship of God and his people, the so-called Negroes. He is after the friendship of the enemies of God and his people, the American whites. Reverend Martin King is very lucky to have one Negro following him, who openly tells the poor, downtrodden black people in words that he never wants to see or live under the supreme rulership of the black nation, for they would be just as bad as white supremacy. He has never lived under his own people's rule. He never has seen the black man lynching and burning the black man. He never had the experience of having to go on freedom rides, sit in strikes under black rule to force them to serve him. Mr. King and his followers are showing the world that they love white supremacy and hope it will rule them forever. Reverend Martin Luther King is not trying to teach and make the lazy white lovers who are followers of his to unite and do something for self, but rather he is aiding them to never have a desire to do for self, but to live by begging the white man to share his wealth with the Negroes and force the white people to share in everything that the white man has and not worry about doing for self. This is the worst teaching I have ever heard of in this modern day, of the rise of the black nation. The Reverend King would not be able to live where the black man is going after something for self. The scared, rotten, white-poisoned preachers should be driven to the rear of the people until they learn that we, the black nation, the first and the last, under the guidance of Allah, will rule successfully without the help of these devils. Stop depending on others and help self. Unite and seek a place on this earth that you can call your own as other nations. Stop seeking the love and recognition of the devils. Reverend Martin Luther King is not trying to teach and make the lazy white lovers, who are followers of his, to unite and do something for self, but rather he is aiding them to never have a desire to do for self, but to live by begging the white man to share his wealth with the Negroes and force the white people to share in everything that the white man has, and not worry about doing for self. This is the worst teaching I have ever heard of in this modern day, of the rise of the black nation. The Reverend King would not be able to live where the black man is going after something for self. The scared, rotten, white poison preachers should be driven to the rear of the people until they learn that we, the black nation, the first and the last, under the guidance of Allah, will rule successfully without the help of these devils. Stop depending on others and help self. Unite and seek a place on this earth that you can call your own as other nations. Stop seeking the love and recognition of the devils. Chapter 8. The coming of the Son of Man, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Matt 2:30. Here in the plainest words is the Son of Man in the judgment day. We are not told by either Moses or Jesus to look for God on the judgment day to be anything other than man. Spirits and spooks cannot be the judge of man's affairs. Man is material of the earth. How long will you be ignorant of the reality of God? You are poisoned by the devil's touch. Why are you looking for a God that is not in flesh and blood as you are? Spirits can only be found in another being like yourself. What pleasure would you have in an invisible world? And on the other hand, what pleasure would spirits have in this material universe of ours? Your very nature is against your being anything other than a human being. These are the days of the resurrection of the mentally dead, so-called Negroes. The Son of Man is here. His coming has been fulfilled. He seeks that which was lost, the so-called Negroes. Many are now receiving his name, and that name alone will save you. The wicked nations of the earth are sorry and angry to see the Son of Man set up a government of justice and peace over this, their wicked and unjust world. They see his signs of great power to execute judgment on the world of the wicked, in the heaven's sky, and they mourn. We must have a new ruler and a new government where the people can enjoy freedom, justice, and equality. Let the so-called Negroes rejoice, for Allah has prepared for them what the eye has not seen, the ear has not heard, and that which the heart has not been able to conceive. The enemy knows this to be true and is now doing everything to prevent the so-called Negroes from seeing the hereafter. Chapter 9. Corruption. Corruption has appeared in the land and sea on account of that which men's hands have wrought, that Allah may make them taste a part of that which they have done, so that they may return. Holy Quran 30:41. The world approaches one of its darkest periods since the creation of the Caucasian race. The intensity of it is increasing hourly. A high temperature of madness is troubling the heads of the nations, regardless to the great advancement of science in every field of wisdom. The great progress that they have made should bring joy and happiness, but instead of joy and happiness, trouble, sorrow, fear, and trembling. And the worst is yet to come. There is a great financial waste on a mad war race. Arms that are made today become obsolete tomorrow. Every nation is trying for the best and for the most destructive weapons of war. Billions of dollars are being spent on useless experiments. The currency is all but worthless. The great army of informers, nearly everyone will deceive the other. The above verse says that is, on the account of that which men's hands have wrought. Man makes his own happiness or trouble. With his brain, he is able to think the thought or idea. He forms an image of it, and the ears, eyes, and mouth bear witness. Then the hands fashion it into shape, the image of the mind. So the white race has prepared their own doom with their own hands, the great fortification at sea and land, the prevailing corruption on the islands of the seals. The great mistake made by the white man was in bringing the so-called Negroes from their native land and people, putting them in chains to rob them of the knowledge of self and labor, and administering merciless beatings and killings for 400 years. Now the God of justice says, "As thou hast done, so shall it be done unto you." Allah God has chosen the so-called Negroes to be his people, and offers them heaven at once on their submission to his will. He invites them into the true religion of God. Then set thyself being upright to the right religion before there comes from Allah the day which cannot be averted. On that day they will be separated. Holy Quran 30:43. The day mentioned that cannot be averted is the day of doom for the enemies of Allah. There is no future for the so-called Negroes in the white man's world. For 400 years, the slave masters and their children have not offered them anything but a job to work and serve them. 20 million people cannot depend on a job in the factories and on the farms of white people, which benefits the owners, not the so-called Negroes. We must have some of this earth that we can call our own. There we can create our own jobs, and the labor will benefit the Negroes. The slave masters and their children have never given the slaves, the so-called Negroes, a fair chance to go for self. They have not had an equal opportunity, and probably will never get one as long as the white man is in power. The white man is against equal justice and equal opportunity for the black man. Last week, a Mr. George E. Sokolsky, news writer, seemed to be angry and upset over the progress that the truth Islam is making among the so-called Negroes. Mr. W. D. Fard, whose proper name is Allah, has brought this truth to awaken the so-called Negroes into the knowledge of self, God, and the devil, and Mr. Sokolsky charges the progress of this truth to be from a violator of the narcotics law who served 3 years in San Quentin Penitentiary. Nothing could be worse than these charges. We will make Mr. George E. Sokolsky prove this lie, regardless to the cost. Allah, God, has brought the knowledge of the truth to us, and this truth is preventing our people from practicing their evil habits. The devil wants to stop the so-called Negroes from believing the truth. Chapter 10. Deceived, we now are seeking the respect of the nations of the earth. To get this respect or recognition, we must lay aside many old ignorant habits practiced from birth. Being loud to self or in the public is not good manners. Too much joking, yelling at one another in public, using ugly, indecent language, swearing at each other, calling each other names, singing foolish and filthy songs, dancing and shaking, twisting the body in public, lusting and looking with wanting eyes at each other, smoking, drinking the fire spirits, is no good. Chewing or using tobacco in any form-fitting clothes, the wearing of shorts by women or men in public is indecent. Going bare-legged in the public, gambling games of chance and whistling is forbidden. Keep the body and mind clean. Take frequent baths. A total bath should be taken daily. Stop eating swine flesh. It is a divine prohibition flesh. 2/3 of our ailments can be traced to the eating of this poisonous animal called the swine hog. Go cleanly dressed. If you have only one suit, keep it clean. Keep your house clean. The woman should never invite or allow strange men to come into her home in the absence of her father, brother, the son of her father, or husband. Show respect to self and others. Respect and honor men in authority whether they respect you or not. Provoke no one. Do not steal nor take advantage of one another because of the freedom to do so. Do not quarrel and fight each other, for we are brothers, same flesh and blood. Would you like to continue destroying your own flesh and blood? Protect your daughters and women from doing evil and filth. Protect them from the love of strange men. Rid yourself of laziness. Be smart and industrious. Do good and righteousness regardless to whom or where. Be not wasteful. Help to build a better future for self and kind. Patronize your own people's business. Spend your dollars among your own kind. Serve one God, Allah, one religion, Islam. Be not divided. Have love and unity of brotherhood first among yourselves. Help to secure a home on this earth that we can call our own. Do something for self and kind in the way of building a better future where we can enjoy peace and security, free from the shadow of death of our enemies. I am so sorry that illness last Sunday, the 25th of June 1961, prevented me from keeping my appointment with you in the nation's capital. Allah is the best knower. I have made visits and have mixed with our people, most all of them, and the above habits are the things being practiced by us that they nations do not like, along with the love of our enemies and the hatred of self and kind. Chapter 11, America's Doom. They say that they, white race, love the scriptures of the prophets of God and are followers of Jesus. Then let that which they claim to believe be their judge. If they claim to be believers of which they are not in, the scriptures of Allah's God's prophets, surely they brought the truth, and that which they predicted would come to the wicked and the righteous in the last days. The truth of them is made manifest in our time. America's price that she must pay for her evils done to her slaves. The lost found members of the original nation of Islam from the tribe of Shabazes, who are nicknamed Negroes by the slave master, is the same as that price paid by Pharaoh and his people. Must reap what is sown. The only difference is that Egypt still exists, while America will not. She must reap what she has sown. She hates her black slaves. She takes pleasure daily in robbing, beating, and killing them, as though her black slaves once robbed and killed them. Her hatred for her slaves can easily be seen and heard in the evil, filthy name-calling of the slaves. She has never attempted to mistreat her aggressive nations, and those who war against her in such evil manners as she does her helpless slaves, so-called Negroes, who know nothing, only what their slave masters have taught them. They are trying their best to imitate their teachers, the slave master. This is due to the born fear and ignorance of self and their masters. They will fight to death for the independence of the slave master, but are too afraid to accept independence for self, or even to leave their slave master for a home among their own kind. Not learned love of self. They have not learned love of self and kind. As other nations, they love their open enemy, the slave master, the real devil. I still say that the history of Pharaoh could not have been made a better picture and warning to America and her slaves. The very plagues, almost 100%, are mentioned and prophesied in the Revelations of John, the last book of the Bible, which brought an end to the symbolic beast. Except the fire does not run side by side with the water and hail, as in the case of Egypt under Pharaoh, according to both books, Bible and Holy Quran. Allah, God, used Pharaoh as a sign of the chief enemy's devil's destruction in the last judgment of the opponents of God and the righteous. Read Bible Exodus 9:16-17, what Jehovah said to Pharaoh, and in very deed for this cause have I raised thee up, for to shew in thee my power, and that name may be declared throughout all the earth. Jehovah's wonderful story. No reader of the Torah and Quran can say they overlook this wonderful story of Jehovah's power, which crushed the power of Pharaoh in such manner as could be called a mockery of the proud king and his boast of power over Egypt and Israel, his slaves. It is the power of the white world that the world boasts they have, that is powerful enough to destroy whoever tries to attack and destroy them. America, since she hypocritically professes to be a believer in God and the prophets, will not say as Pharaoh said to Moses, for fear of losing the so-called Negroes who believes in the spooky slavery teachings of Christianity. Today, America has the help of the Father Pope of the Church through the present administration in Washington, as we have never seen before. The Catholics are going all out in America to convert the so-called Negroes and the black people in Africa. Mock the idea as Moses stood before Pharaoh representing Allah as the Lord of the worlds. The proud, wicked Pharaoh mocked the idea by suggesting that he would build a tower to attack Moses' God, and Pharaoh said, O Haman, build for me a tower, that I may attain the means of access to the heavens, that I may reach the God of Moses, for I surely think him to be a liar. Holy Quran 40:36-37. This Haman must have been Pharaoh's chief construction engineer of the War Department. Note that Moses made no mention that Jehovah never told Moses where he came from. Sign of the judgment. We must remember that the judgment of this Pharaoh's rule and his people is a sign of the judgment of the powerful rulers of today by the unequaled weapons that Allah has prepared to use in destroying them. These terrible and dreadful weapons are both on the earth and in the heavens above the earth. But yet, these rulers mock the idea of Allah being able to destroy them and their advanced wicked science without hurting one Muslim, the righteous. The present wicked rulers have learned, and now see, through their powerful telescopes, the power of Allah hanging and moving in the sky, as well as you and I, who are able to see some of it with the naked eye. Allah has made the retired ex-general, Kehoe, take pictures of this power Allah over our heads, which is almost identical to what Allah showed me in the sky in 1932. Jesus prophesied of it coming in the clouds of heaven, and Ezekiel gives us a faint picture of it in his vision of a wheel, high above the earth. The foolish disbeliever of today says and does the same as the disbelievers before them. Remember, Jehovah killed the mocking proud Pharaoh and his people for the evil they had done to Israel. The symbolic prophetic beast of the Revelation was destroyed for his persecution of the symbolic woman and seeking to destroy her child at birth. Pharaoh and his people sought to destroy Israel by killing off all the boy babies. Herod sought to destroy Jesus by the same method. What means and methods are now in the working to destroy the so-called Negroes from becoming a ruling power? Wait for the answer. Remember, Israel was persecuted severely by Pharaoh and his people. Rome and the Jews persecuted Jesus and his disciples. The Revelation symbolic beast persecuted the symbolic woman and her child. The beast and those with him were destroyed in a lake of fire. Pharaoh and his people were destroyed by drowning in the Red Sea. The Jews and Romans lost their independence and the power to rule the world. What and how will America lose her power and independence to rule the world? Watch for the answer. The doom. It is forbidden for the righteous to have friendly relations with the wicked, who are the enemies of God, his prophets, his scriptures, and his religion of peace, Islam. O you who believe, take not my enemy and your enemy for friends. Would you offer them love, while they deny the truth that has come to you, driving out the messenger and yourselves because you believe in Allah, your Lord? If you have come forth to strive in my way and to seek my pleasure, would you love them in secret? And I know what you conceal and what you manifest. And whoever of that does this, he indeed strays from the straight path. If they overcome you, they will be your enemies, and will stretch forth their hand and their tongues towards you with evil. and they desire that you may disbelieve. Holy Quran 61:2. My people, the truth, Islam, has come to you. Why not believe? Is it because you are guilty of loving your enemies and the enemies of Allah, God, His prophets, and His true religion of peace, Islam? Is it for the love of your enemies that you seek to give the lie to Allah, God, His messengers, prophets, and His religion? Allah has made manifest to you His enemies and the white race. They are His enemies, your enemies, the enemies of our fathers and our nation, the black, brown, yellow, and red man. The poor NAACP black leaders, who are yet blind, deaf, and dumb, are in love with these open enemies of Allah, God, and their own people, the so-called Negroes. The so-called black leaders are against separation from these universally known enemies of the black nation due to their open and secret love of membership in the white race and a position as a permanent servant in their house and country. These are the same enemies who forced our forefathers into servitude slavery for 300 years and still own them as their property under free slavery. The NAACP leaders boast that they have equal rights with the master in the USA. Whatever is the master's, it is also the slave's. They believe the master should beat and kill his brothers to enforce equal rights between the slave and the master. What a foolish people! They think that they, not the white race, can live without each other and therefore should not be separated. It is an open and universal fool who loves his enemies and the enemies of his God and people. Ask these dumb leaders, who is it that deprives them of freedom, justice, and equality? They will say, the white man. Ask them, who was it that enslaved you, lynched, burned, beat, and killed you out of the law of justice all over America? They will say the white man. Ask them, who killed God's prophets and crucified Jesus? They will say the white man. Ask them, who was it that started the war in Europe and in the 30s and on Ethiopia? Was it the black nation Islam or the white race Christianity? They will say the white man. Then ask them, does not your Bible teach, whosoever therefore will be a friend of the world, the white race is the ruler of the world, is the enemy of God? James 4:4. They will say yes. Then ask them, have you not heard that Allah has revealed to His servant Elijah Muhammad that this is a race of devils and that by nature they cannot love justice and righteousness? They will say yes. Then say, O foolish of all the people, why not believe and seek your God and people like yourselves? Did not they, the white race, stretch forth their hands and tongue against Martin Luther King and his followers in the South when he tried to force the white brothers against each other to enforce the law of integration, a law which would mongrelize the white and black people? Yes, but you yet love the enemies of Allah, God, and yourselves. So wait and see who will be happy and who will be unhappy. Chapter 12. The doom draws near, and affliction is combined with affliction. To thy Lord on that day is the driving. Holy Quran 75:29-30. A rich and powerful people living in luxury, having everything that their souls desire, feeling secure from harm coming to them, because of their strong, powerful fortifications, well-trained and well-fed armies, having armed planes and ships carrying death to one another, stockpiles of bombs of death waiting for the hour to be released on the nations. No peace, no safety in such a world that you and I are now living in. The people of Allah, the so-called Negroes, are mentally dead to this time, as the people were in the days when Moses was sent to Pharaoh to bring Israel out of the bondage of the Egyptians into a land where they could enjoy self-independence. Instead of them Israelites being happy to hear that God was ready to deliver them from Pharaoh and to give them a goodly land, they set to contend with Moses and to help Pharaoh oppose Moses and Jehovah. They knew not that they were fighting a losing battle until Jehovah began plaguing Egypt. With armies that the Egyptian armies were helpless to fight, Jehovah brought both Israel and Pharaoh to their knees in submission. As the Bible's second book, Exodus, opens with war over a chosen people, it closes also with war for another people. Pharaoh was drowned in the Red Sea and the beast destroyed in a lake of fire. America is guiltier of mistreating the people of God, the so-called Negroes, than Pharaoh or any slave masters that recorded history makes mention of. The doom of America is at her door. This is the great judgment of the most powerful nation on earth of the white race, but she is the wicked of all. America will not do justice by her slaves, the so-called Negroes. She claims they are free, but is aware of the fact that they are mentally enslaved and by no means know how to go for self. America has always mistreated the so-called Negroes by beating and killing them to put fear in the others, shooting them down in the streets and highways for little or nothing. She, America, takes her slaves to be her worst enemies. She has never treated any enemy that she has warred with as she has and still treats her harmless slaves. They have made the Negro to even love them and have them killing their brother slave to satisfy the bloodthirsty, merciless masters. Allah has now chosen the poor Negroes to be His people and will slay you as He did Pharaoh and many kings and empires that were. Even stronger than you, according to the Holy Quran, and the remains of their civilizations are found under the sand in Egypt and Arabia. Affliction upon affliction shall come upon you. Dust storms, hailstorms, and other destructive storms have served as a reminder for America that Allah, God, is after her. Now, if droughts and earthquakes follow, you should not be surprised. You must give up the so-called Negroes to meet their God and live on some of this earth that they can call their own. Chapter 13. The end. We are fulfilling that which is written of us in the scriptures, which we must read. Matt 5:11, 10:23, 23:84, Reverend 12:13. My followers and I do not belong to the slave masters anymore. We belong to Allah, God, in whose name we are called. This is universally known. But as it is written, you will be persecuted until the help of Allah comes. Holy Quran. That help is very near. America's jails, I was told, are filled. Some of them are so overcrowded that many of the prisoners have to sleep in the hallways. But yet America rejoices in persecuting the Muslims under false charges just to discourage our poor, blind, deaf, and dumb people from accepting the truth Islam and returning to their true God, Allah, and his true religion, Islam. Pray to government. We, the original people, are a prey to the government of America, who must now be freed and separated from our enemies, the slave masters and their children, if we are to ever enjoy peace, freedom, justice, and equality. 20 million of our people cannot depend on another nation for existence. We must look to God himself as other nations had to do, or continue to beg our enemies' white slave masters for jobs to exist among them, instead of asking and demanding a chance to go for self, to create our own jobs. This is a disgrace to the leadership of 20 million people who do not want the responsibility of caring for self. Well, the time is very near when you'll have to go for self. Something of past America's and the entire white race's ruling power over the brown, red, yellow, and black nations of Africa and Asia will soon be something of the past. No longer will those nations bow to the Western powers. America's doom is sealed and is inevitable according to the word of Allah, God, to me. Allah desires to make himself known to the world, that he alone is God and has appeared among us in the person of Master W. Fard Muhammad. Both Bible and Quran teach of the presence of God in person at the end of the world of Satan, the devil's rule. We would be foolish to disbelieve that such character is not present and is not directing the course of the nations today. Allah against whites. The American white race is the #1 people whom Allah's anger is directed against, as Jehovah's anger was against Egypt in the time of Moses. Jehovah's weapons of war used against Pharaoh and his people were the forces of nature: fleas, frogs, lice, diseases, rains, hailstorms, fire, water, and finally the drowning of Pharaoh and his armies in the Red Sea. The same forces of nature are prepared to be used against America with the following additions: terrifying storms which now harass America, the loss of friendship of the nations, a specially prepared enemy people under the name Gog and Magog, whose skill and power will cover the earth for a while. There will be no friends. For America, snow, ice, and earthquakes, even droughts and dust storms, the natural powers of water, wind, terrific cold out of the north, fire from the sun, agitation of the high seas by the magnetism of the moon and sun, which will aid in the destruction of America's sea power. Sins are greatest. This is referred to in the prophecy of Jesus. Read Luke 21:25. Also Isaiah 27:1, Reverend 8:7-8-9. America's sins are the greatest. Her sins are even worse than all the nations of the earth combined. She sees and knows her doom is near, so she seeks to trick her slaves, so-called Negroes, to share this doom with her. But she knows that her once slaves have a chance of escaping, so she hypocritically offers them social equality under the name integration, which she knows the blind, deaf, and dumb will fall for, while it is an open trap of death for both sides. My people do not realize this, nor will they believe this until they are hurt, or it is too late, or that this is the end of Satan's world, power over the black nation of Islam, and must be told in the plainest language. This is the work of Allah, not you and I. Read your Bible and Holy Quran. America has always hated and mistreated her slaves, so-called Negroes. Today, she backs up the police departments throughout the country to beat and kill poor black men and women. We have always been submissive to these cruel, merciless enemies, like lambs are to a pack of hungry wolves. Stop tricking your slaves, white America. Separate them into a good place on some of this soil that you robbed our people of, with superior weapons, and supply them with that which is necessary to get started for self. Then, maybe your doom will be delayed a while. Otherwise, Allah will do it, and will not leave a place for you anywhere on the planet. It is not the evil done to others by the white race of America. It is the unjustified evils done to the helpless black slaves of America. Allah wishes to make America an example of His judgment, that both Europe and Asia may know that He alone is God and has redeemed the helpless black slaves from their merciless enemies. I have warned you. Take it or leave it. Free slave, free master. In unity, we can accomplish much. Think of the 20 million of your and my kind putting $1 a year aside for ourselves in a national treasury towards the day of want. Suppose we laid aside $1 every month against the day of want. Look at the millions that we could build up for ourselves within a few years. Suppose all of you who are wealthy would spend your wealth to build up a better and sounder economic system among your own people. It would do much to aid our people. Do not put your wealth in the taverns, gambling houses, on racehorses, and other sports. Then you would not be so easy to push over when the day of want arrives. There is no need for us, millions and millions throughout the country, spending our money to the joy and happiness of others. As a result, as soon as they throw us out of a job, we are back at their doors begging for bread and soup. How many clothing shops do we operate in the country? Yet, all of us wear clothes. Who made our clothes for us? Who sold them to us? We have thousands of grocery stores, but what about our naked bodies? Should not we have stores to sell our people everything they want or need? But no, we give all the money out of our pockets over to the slave master. We are satisfied in doing so. There are millions of us. We don't have a factory to weave clothes for our people here in America. Think over that. Where is our shoe factory? Where are our cattle that we are skinning the hides off to make shoes for our people? These are small things, but we want equality with a nation that is doing these things. We boast that we should be recognized as equals with the master until we own what the master owns. We cannot be equal with the master until we have the freedom the master enjoys. We cannot be equal with master until we have the education the master has. Then we can say, Master, recognize me as your equal. Today you are begging the master, the slave master's children, for what? You are begging them for a job. You are begging for complete recognition as their equal. Let us be honest with ourselves. According to history, we cannot find where the master made his slave equal until the slave made himself worthy of equality. I am with you to go on top. We cannot go on with weight that is hanging on us. We cannot charge the white man with our faults. We are supposed to be, according to his teachings, free. We are supposed to have been freed from him approximately 100 years ago. Have we exercised that freedom? We must answer that we have not availed ourselves of that freedom. If we have not availed ourselves of that freedom, which he said he gave us, why should we think hard of him about the way he treats us? This may be a little hard to swallow. Our fathers, in the days they were set free by the slave masters, had no knowledge of how to go for self. They had been made blind, deaf, and dumb to the knowledge of their own. Today you are educated. You claim that you have equal education. Then why don't you take a walk? Before we can be justified in accusing the other man, let us examine ourselves first. I don't say that our fathers are the ones to blame for their ignorance, and neither are you. They nor you are at fault. The root of the cause can be placed back into the laps of the slave master. When the slave master says we are free and continues to say that we are free, should we not take a free step? We charge the slave master's children with mistreating us. Suppose you tell a man that he is free. Get out of our house and go into your own. But the freed slave says, no, I'll work for you. I'll serve you as a servant if you will allow me to remain in your house. The man of the house tells you, I won't give you a new suit this year. I'll not pay you today for any work. Go home and sit down. Why should you say that man is not treating you right? Why say to that man, I have to have a job the same as you? Has not he offered the door to you? If the slave master did not mean that you and I were free, we should have them to admit it. You remain as a free slave to your slave master. You demand that he recognize you as his equal. You are making yourself look small in the eyes of the world. If every so-called Negro were fired, what would you do? Would you unite and go to Washington and demand the government to give you a job? You would be foolish enough to do that. If they beat you by the thousands, what right have you to say that he should not lash you? You have made yourself his slave. You continue to preach a doctrine of remaining with the slave master. You are still called by your slave master's names. By rights, by international rights, you belong to the white man of America. He knows that you have never gotten out of the shackles of slavery. You are still in them. You are still in authority over your wife as long as she goes in your name, regardless of her separating herself from you. If she has not gotten a legal divorce and freed herself from your name, you are still in authority over her by law. Likewise, you are still under authority of the chains of your slave masters. You have not tried to free yourself from them. You have not exercised the freedom that they claim to have given you. Today is the day of decision. We have lived here more than 400 years. That, you know, according to prophecy, is the prediction of our stay among these people. That time has expired. The time is up. the decision is being made for your and my departure. It is most important to God Almighty, whose proper name is Allah, that I speak to you according to the time that we are living now. Today, you are standing face to face with the alternative of accepting your own or forever be erased from the earth as a people. No one is trying to make you see this importance but your own. Why don't you see? You are blindly looking toward the slave master to tell you this. How can the master tell the slave, "Look, slave, your day has arrived. You should sit in this seat of authority"? We cannot build a future on a job that was given to us by the slave master 400 years ago. The day has arrived. He has no more work for us to do. He is not willing to tell us that. The time has arrived when deep within his heart, he desires that you go out and find a job for yourself. He will forever be burdened. The burden will get greater and greater as long as he tries to carry you and me. It is time for a separation of the two, black and white. Allah, God, is calling for a separation. I am with you to go on top. We cannot go on with weight that is hanging on us. We cannot charge the white man with our faults. We are supposed to be, according to his teachings, free. We are supposed to have been freed from him approximately 100 years ago. Have we exercised that freedom? We must answer that we have not availed ourselves of that freedom. If we have not availed ourselves of that freedom, which he said he gave us, why should we think hard of him about the way he treats us? This may be a little hard to swallow. Our fathers, in the days they were set free by the slave master, had no knowledge of how to go for self. They had been made blind, deaf, and dumb. Chapter 14. Allah offers you a future. You and I, the so-called American Negro, are helpless without Allah, God, and Islam, which is the religion of God, His prophets, and our people. We are at the mercy of the Christian world. What has the Christian world done for you and me? Why should we want to remain in it? Have not they continued to segregate you, line you up and burn you? Don't they continue to beat your heads and your brains burst out over your ears and eyes? They have done these things to us. They did these things even as you called yourself a Christian. They have shown that they don't recognize you as their equal. Why don't you exercise that freedom which they offer you and go back to your own? If our share of this earth is not in this Western Hemisphere, then we must look for it in the East. However, 25 million so-called Negroes who have been lost from their own people for 400 years must have a home on this earth that they can call their own. Allah the Great, God of the universe, will give us the whole earth if we submit to Him and have patience to wait on Him. Regardless of the cost, we must have some earth of our own. Let not the false show and promises of this world deceive you so that you are the loser. You make yourself a despised people in the eyes of the civilized world by hating yourself and loving the enemy devil. The original man, Allah has declared, is none other than the black man. He is the first and last, maker and owner of the universe. The brown, yellow, red, and white all came from the black man. The black man used a special method of birth control law to produce the white race. The true knowledge of black and white mankind should be enough to awaken the so-called Negroes, put them on their feet and on the road to self-independence. You, my people, are so afraid of the slave master that you even love them to the point of your own destruction. You wish the bearer of truth would not tell the truth even if he knows it. You hate a leader that tries to unite you to your own kind. Allah offers you a future, an eternal future. This world has no future. It was doomed when it was created. I speak and write what has been given to me from Allah, God, to whom praise is due. I am not here to excite you for wealth or praise. I don't want your wealth. I don't want your praise. I want for you the thing which will produce unity of self and our kind. I want you safe. The world knows that I want you safe. What I preach is for our own life and the life of our children. It is Allah's will and purpose that we shall know ourselves. He came Himself to teach us the knowledge of self. How else may you account for the success of my followers and me? Who is better knowing of who we are than God Himself? All praise is due to the great Mahdi Allah in person, who was to come and has come. He is the sole master of the worlds. I ask myself at times, what can I do to repay Allah, the great Mahdi, Fard Muhammad, for his coming, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding? My followers and I have and are still spending much time and money to awaken our people to the knowledge of self. We are suffering much persecution and ridicule to awaken our people to the knowledge of their own salvation. Our present suffering is nothing compared to the joy that awaits us as a people united for one common cause, serving Allah, the God of Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and our forefathers. Allah has declared that we must know ourselves and unite to our own kind or suffer the consequences. The new government, controlled by the Roman Catholics, will stop at nothing in their effort to win the black people of America to them. But the Negroes must know that this world's end is near. Chapter 15. GET knowledge to benefit self. I am for the acquiring of knowledge, or the accumulating of knowledge, as we now call it in education. First, my people must be taught the knowledge of self. Then, and only then, will they be able to understand others and that which surrounds them. Anyone who does not have knowledge of self is considered a victim of amnesia, or either unconsciousness, or they are not very competent. The lack of knowledge of self is a prevailing condition among my people here in America. Gaining the knowledge of self makes us unite and put us into a great unity. Knowledge of self makes you take on the great virtue of learning. Many people have attempted to belittle or degrade my followers by referring to them as unlettered or unschooled. They do this to imply that the believers in Islam are ignorant. If such a claim were so, then all the more credit should be given for our striving for self-elevation with so little. But truth represents itself and stands by itself. No followers or any people are more zealous about the acquiring of knowledge than my followers. Throughout the Holy Quran, the duty of a Muslim to acquire knowledge is spelled out. My people should get an education which will benefit their own people, and not an education adding to the storehouse of their teacher. We need education, but get an education which removes us from the shackles of slavery and servitude. Get an education, but not an education at the sacrifice of not learning the knowledge of self. Get an education, but not an education which leaves us in an inferior position and without a future. Get an education, but not an education that leaves us looking to the slave master for a job. Education for my people should be where our children are off to themselves for the first 15 or 16 years in classes separated by the sex. Then they could and should seek higher education without losing respect for self or seeking to lose their identity. No people strive to lose themselves among other people except the so-called American Negro. This they do because of their lack of knowledge of self. We should acquire an education where our people will become better students than their teachers. Get an education which will make our people put to better use the knowledge they acquire, that will make our people produce jobs for self, and will make our people willing and able to go do for self. Is this not the goal and aim of the many foreign students who are studying in this country? Don't these students return to their own nations and give their people the benefit of their learning? Did not Dr. Nkrumah return to Ghana to lead his people to independence with the benefit of learning he acquired here in America and elsewhere? Did not Dr. Hastings Banda return to give the benefit of his education to his people who are striving towards freedom and independence in Nyasaland? Did not Dr. Azik Abubakar of Nigeria give the benefit of his education to the upliftment and independence of his people? Does not America offer exchange scholarships to smaller, weaker, and dependent foreign governments so their students will acquire knowledge to aid the people of those countries? Then why shouldn't the goal in education be the same for you and me? Why is scorn and abuse directed towards my followers and myself when we say our people should get an education which will aid, benefit, and uplift our people? Any other people would consider it a lasting insult of the worst type to ask them to refrain from helping their people to be independent by contributing the benefit for their knowledge. Get an education, but one which will instill the idea and desire to get something of your own, a country of your own, and jobs of your own. I recall in 1922 or 23, when a debate was taking place in Congress concerning appropriation of funds for Howard University, a school set aside to train my people in. The nation's capital, a senator said, "It is in the records to be examined in effect. What would be the need of the government appropriating money to educate Negroes?" He said they would not teach our people the science of modern warfare, defense, birth control, or chemistry. He knew those were things free people must know in order to protect, preserve, and advance themselves. We have not been able to protect, preserve, and advance ourselves. This shows the slave master has been successful in dominating us with an education beneficial to him. There is a saying among us, mother may have, father may have, but God blesses the child who has its own. It is time we have our own. I want an education for my people that will let them exercise the right of freedom. We are 100 years up from slavery. We are constantly told that we are free. Why can't we take advantage of that freedom? I want an education for my people that will elevate them. Why should we always be lying at the gate begging for bread, shelter, clothing, and jobs if we are free and educated? Do not get an education just to set some useless symbolic monument to the black man in the Western Hemisphere. We need an education that eliminates division among us. Acquire an education that creates unity and makes us desire to be with our own. The acquiring of knowledge for our children and ourselves must not be limited to the 3 R's: reading, writing, and arithmetic. It should instead include the history of the black nation, the knowledge of civilization of man and the universe and all the sciences. It will make us a greater people of tomorrow. We must instill within our people the desire to learn, and then use that learning for self. We must be obsessed with getting the type of education we may use towards the elevation and benefit of our people. When we have such people among us, we must make it possible for them to acquire this wealth, which will be beneficial and useful to us. One of the attributes of Allah, the all-wise God, who is the supreme being, is knowledge. Knowledge is the result of learning and is a force or energy that makes its bearer or a people accomplish or overcome obstacles, barriers, and resistance. In fact, God means possessor of power and force. The education my people need is that knowledge, the attribute of God, which creates power to accomplish and make progress in the good things of the righteous things. We have tried other means and ways and we have failed. Why not try Islam? It is our only salvation. It is the religion of Allah, His prophets, and our forefathers. Islam will let you take that step for self. Chapter 16. A good name better than gold. One of the first and most important truths that must be established in this day is our identity. This is what our God, whose proper name is Allah, is guiding me to point out to you, many people who are members of the lost and found nation of Islam in North America. You, my people, have been robbed of your complete identity for over 400 years. Is it not time for you to know who you are after 400 years of submission to the white slave masters of America and their false religion of Christianity? Death for our redemption in Christianity. Our true God is not like the spook God of Christianity who demands death for our salvation and redemption. He is offering us freedom, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness on this earth. While we live, first, you must be given the names of your forefathers, whose names are the most holy and righteous name of Allah. Again, I repeat, that restoring to you your identity is one of the first and most important truths to be established by God Himself. All nations of the earth are recognized by the name by which they are called. By stating one's name, one is able to associate an entire order of a particular civilization simply by the name alone. For example, if you take the name Lu Qin, we know immediately that this is a Chinese name whose land of origin is China, a country that operates on an independent basis and is recognized throughout the world as a nation, and her people demand respect. We know this and more from the name Lu Qin. If we search among the peoples and the nations of the earth, we discover that this is an established truth from continent to continent. 20 million called by the devil's names. It is only when we come to America and learn the nations that names our people are now going in, that we discover that a whole nation of 20 million black people are going in the names of white people. How can a so-called Negro say that his name is Sam Jones, a white man's name whose roots are in Europe, and Sam Jones black man comes from Africa or Asia? My poor blind, deaf, and dumb people are going in the wrong names, and until you accept the names of your people and nation, we will never be respected because of this alone. This is one of the reasons Almighty Allah has come amongst us, which is to give us His names, the most holy and righteous names of the planet Earth. Allah gives names to Muhammad. It is Allah who gave me my name, Muhammad. From this name alone, our open enemies, the white race, know that the true and light God has come into our midst and is doing a divine work amongst the so-called Negroes of America. The white man knows that Islam was our religion, our civilization, and our way of life before he made us blind, deaf, and dumb to this knowledge. It has never been the white man's intention to restore to us this knowledge. Now that he sees his formerly dead ex-slaves returning to their own religion, Islam, and worshiping their own God, Allah, and awakening to the truth of their true identity, he knows that God alone is bringing this change about. Soon all will accept truth. The white race knows and admits that it is only a matter of time when all the truth will be accepted by our people to his deepest regret. I warn you, my people, God said this from His own mouth. A good name is indeed better than gold. I am naught but a warner and a messenger to you, my people, not self-sent, but directly from Almighty God Allah. Chapter 17. Have we qualified man and women for self-government? Party, the answer to this question is yes. We do not have to be equal in knowledge with every nation to be successful in operating our own government. Were those Israelites 4,000 years ago the Egyptians equals? Were those whites who first came to this country seeking self-government equal to England's parliamentary lords? There are probably many independent people who do not have as many with the know-how of the American educated class of so-called Negroes. We have enough technicians such as mathematicians, construction engineers, civil engineers, mechanical engineers, physicists, chemists, educators, agriculturists, navigators, and aeronauts. Among the 20 million or more of us, plenty of scholars, scientists. You will find scholars or scientists we can use in every branch of government. Then, there are our own independent people outside of this country who would be glad to help us get going in a country or state to ourselves. We do not expect or desire to build a government patterned after that of the white man. Naturally, we would need help for the next 20 or 25 years. After that, we would be self-supporting. The spirit of doing for self is now fast coming into our people. They need a new education of self and others. United under the crescent of Islam is all that is necessary for you and me to become the world's greatest people. The lying and slavery teachings of the white man's Christianity that has crucified our people over the earth must be given up. We must accept the true religion, Islam, of Jesus and the prophets before and after him, before we can be successful in doing anything. We have no future. Let the foolish educators and teachers think not that we have a future in white America's promises, for they themselves do not have a future unless they are willing to divide this country between our people, so-called Negroes, and the Indians whom they robbed nearly 500 years ago. However, we must have some of this earth that we can call our own, and soon. We and also the Indians deserve justice in this matter. We can no longer think in the slavery time terms that we used to think. The preachers need and must be taught the true religion of God and stop enslaving our people into that lying and slavery teaching of the devil's white race. Believe it or not, we have been serving and worshiping the real devils. Stop preaching that old lie that God loves all human beings. He most certainly does not love the devils, the white race. He set a day for their doom, the day they were grafted and given 6,000 years to rule us. A rule of lying and murdering us day and night, which deceives nearly the entire nation of black, brown, yellow, and red people. I possess a letter that is supposed to be authentic on how the devils boast of how they have killed 100 million black Africans since they have contacted them with their lying Christianity. Do we not love our black brothers' blood regardless to where spilled? List of murders in 1898. A devil by the name of Lacroix, representing Belgium's big business, admitted he had murdered 160 so-called Negro men, women, and children. He also admitted he had tortured some and crucified women and children. The Congo, in 1880, Belgium estimated a population of 80 million. By 1911, the population was reduced to 20 million. By 1960, the population was 13 million. In 1894, an English traveler, E.J. Glave, reported 21 heads of black men were brought to Stanley Falls and used as decorations around a flower bed in one of the home of a high-ranking army officer. Missionaries reported that white Christians forced the Negroes into slavery producing rubber, and if the rubber was of bad quality, the poor black slaves were made to eat it. And you are fools enough to preach their deadly poisoned religion, Christianity, to the suffering of self and kind. Are you in love with your open enemies and murderers of all black people, God and his prophets? Then stick around and see where you will end up. Chapter 18. Have we qualified men and women for self-government? Part 2. And when the devil will say, when the matter is decided, surely Allah promised you a promise of truth, and I promised you, then failed you, and I had no authority over you, except that I called you and you obeyed me. So blame me not, but blame yourselves. I cannot come to your help, nor can you came to my help. I deny your associating with Allah before. Holy Quran 14:22. The above verse is now being fulfilled. The false leadership of the lost, found members of the Asiatic nation from the tribe of Shabazz, so-called Negroes, sincerely loves and worships the devil's white race in such manner that should be due only to Allah, God. The devils know that the so-called Negroes are fools for worshiping them as if they were equal to Allah. But the devils will not admit this until the truth forces them to admit that they are not equal to Allah. They will also admit that Allah's promise is true, but their promise is false. The devils did not intend to live up to the truth of their promise even when they made it. But knowing that their followers, so-called Negroes, were blind, deaf, and dumb to the knowledge and the truth of them, they could, therefore, make false promises, and the blind, deaf, and dumb would believe them. Want to socialize? So it is today. The so-called Negro leadership is so desirous to socialize with the devils under the present act of integration that they forsake Allah, God, and his promise of truth of setting them in heaven at once. The so-called Negro seeks to hasten the devils to fulfill their promise of integration by telling the devils, if you don't hurry and fulfill that which you promised us, the Muslims will take all of us. In other words, they are saying this: if you will do better by us than you have done in the past, then we will not accept Allah, God, and his messenger, Elijah Muhammad. We love you and this world's life and will not follow anyone who does not love and follow you. But the devils will admit, after the truth is confirmed, that they have no authority over them, the so-called Negroes, keeping them from believing in Allah, following his messenger and the teachings of Allah's religion, Islam, except that they devils called you so-called Negroes, and you obeyed them. Afraid to disobey the poor, fearful, disbelieving so-called Negroes are too afraid to disobey their known murderers, white Americans. But today it is different. Obey the call of Allah and disobey the devils who have no power over you. If you submit to Allah, the day is very near, when you and the devils who you take for friends will not be able to help each other against Allah. In fact, and you see it today, any opposition to the teaching of Islam is not prosperous. It is the aim of Almighty Allah God to make His religion of truth to triumph over all other religions, even though the believers of other religions may be against it. Islam. See Holy Quran 61:8-9. Watch Your Friends. The Holy Quran, chapter 9, 23-24, warns the Muslims of taking even their disbeliever parents for friends in these words: O you who believe, take not your fathers and your brothers for friends if they love disbelief above faith, and whoever of you takes them for friends, such are the wrongdoers. If your fathers and your sons and your brethren and your wives and your kinsfolk and the wealth you have acquired in trade whose dullness you fear, and dwellings you love are dearer to you than Allah and His Messenger, and striving in His way, then wait until Allah brings His command to pass. There are many who would believe the truth, Islam, but their love for their disbelieving near of kin and friends are greater than their love for Allah and the truth. This lack of love for Almighty Allah God will cause them to go to hell with the disbelievers. Chapter 19. Help self before helping others. Party. Do you have a name of Allah God? There are 99 names of Allah and Allah makes the 100th. You owe it to yourself and your future to be called by one of Allah's names. So-called Negroes, who are the lost-found members of the tribe of Shabazz, belong in one of these 100 names of Allah, and they owe it to themselves to hurry and get in His name. The Bible makes this abundantly clear that those who are without the name of Allah God will be the losers on the Day of Judgment. Isa 6:5-15, Reverend 14:9-10. There are many who think a name means nothing. Those who believe a name means nothing are in great need of teaching. The first thing that is asked into getting acquainted with people is, what is your name? We are absolutely judged according to the value of our names. We have been the property of strange and wicked masters, and they have called us by their names, which are not divine names. Their names are worthless and are not deemed human names. For example, fish, bird, wood, tree, Roundtree, Sawyer, rivers, waters, and many others. There will be no one in his hereafter who does not have a name of Allah. As Allah's God's name is eternal, so must we who are lucky to see the hereafter have a name that will live forever. The present names of the Muslims are names of Allah. Some use His name Allah. The names of this wicked race of devils are to be destroyed with them. Isa 6:5-15, Reverend 14:11. There are many prophecies in the Bible on the total destruction this wicked world as you and I know it to be. So be not too proud to seek a good name that will live forever, a name of Allah's. Never forget that the nation of Islam is infinite. The religion of Islam is the only religion accepted by God. Islam means entire submission to the will of Allah. Therefore, those who submit to Allah are called by His name and will live forever with Allah. Those of my followers going to the white courts to get permits to be called one of the names of Allah attributes, this is by no means necessary. There is no price on a good name from Allah. Allah, God wants to give you one of His eternal names if you will accept and submit to Him. The present names you are being called are not your names at all. They are the white devil's names. They call you after their names as their fathers did when you were their personal property slave. But remember, you are not their personal property today. The coming of Allah has redeemed us. By nature, you are not a member of the devil's race, but they wish to keep you in their worthless names because they know their race and names are limited on the earth, and your nation and Allah's names are unlimited. We are the real owners of the heavens and earth. It was our fathers who created it, not a white man. You will soon come to know that we should be ashamed after having the knowledge to be called after the names of our white slave masters, our open enemies of Allah, and the righteous black people whose future was limited to rule for 6,000 years. This time ended in 1914. The white race cannot help but do evil, killing and doing injustices to each other, let alone you and me. Be happy that the day is here that their evil doings shall be put to an end. The few ignorant, having not knowledge Muslims who think that they white race are the people of Allah shall soon be made ashamed. The entire white race are the real devils by nature. If you are wise or would like to be made wise, get out of their names into one that shall live forever. Chapter 20. Help Self Before Helping Others. Part 2. Many of my people, the so-called Negroes, say we should help the victims of Africa which are awakening. This has been said, as if we owned America. We are so foolish. What part of America do you have that you can offer towards helping Africa? Who is independent, the nation of Africa, or we? The best act would be to request the independent governments of Africa and Asia to help us. We are the ones who need help. We have little or nothing to offer as help to others. We should begin to help at home first. We are 20 million strong. Many of the nations today that have their independence and those who are getting their independence are smaller in number than my people here in America. Just south of America is Cuba, which has a little over 6.5 million people. They are independent. We are more than 3 times their number and are not yet exercising the steps of freedom. We are dependent on the slave master. We do not have 2 feet of earth for our people. They also have independence. Remember that we are numbering over 20 million and we have nothing. Peru has close to 10 million people and they have independence. Sudan has a little over 10 million. Liberia has about 10 million. The Congo has about 12 million. Tunisia has about 4 million. And Afghanistan has about 12 million people and all are independent. Even in this hemisphere, the West Indies with close to 3.5 million people, they have gained their independence. You and I, here in America, are licking the boots of the slave master, begging him for rights of independent people. Yes, we are licking his boots. Sir, let me shine your shoes. You have been doing that for approximately 400 years. Today, if one rises up in your midst and says, we should not lick the slave master's boots, we should lick our own boots, you say, he should be killed because he is teaching us to hate. My people, you are in a dangerous position. Get out of your fear and stand up for your people. Who are you not to die for your people? Who am I not to die for my people? If I am shot down or cut down today, who is little Elijah Muhammad to 20 million of you? If 1 million of us throw ourselves in the fire for the benefit of the 20 million, the loss would be small compared to the great gain our people would make as a result of that sacrifice. Hundreds of thousands of Muslims gave their lives in Pakistan to get independence. They were successful. The black man in Africa is fighting and dying today in unity for their independence. We sit here like pampered babies. We cannot even stand up on the floor, not to think about taking a chance of crawling out of the door. We are too careful of shedding blood for ourselves. We are willing to shed all of it for the benefit of others. I am not trying to get you to fight. That is not even necessary. Our unity will win the battle. Not one of us will have to raise a sword. Not one gun would we need to fire. The great cannon that will be fired is our unity. Our unity is more powerful than any atomic weapon or hydrogen bomb. All we have to do is unite. Our unity is the best. Why are you afraid to accept Allah and Islam? It is only because the slave master did not teach you of this. We must unite as a nation of people. Separation of the so-called Negroes from their slave master's children is a must. It is the only solution to our problems. It is the only solution, according to the Bible, for Israel and the Egyptians. Separation will prove to be the only solution for America and her slaves, whom she mockingly calls her citizens, without granting citizenship. We must bear in mind at all times that we are being mocked. You must know that this is the time of our separation and the judgment of this world, the Caucasian, which you and I have known. Therefore, Allah, God, has said to me that the time is ripe for you and me to accept our own, the whole planet Earth. Are you waiting for the divine destruction? Come, let us reason together. First, in order for us to reason, you must have a thorough knowledge of self. Who is going to teach you the knowledge of self? Surely not your slave master, who blinded you to that knowledge. The slave master will not teach you the knowledge of self, as there would not be a master-slave relationship any longer. Today, for the first time in our history, we have that true friend in Allah whom came in the person of Master Fard Muhammad and the nation of Islam. We have only to submit and accept him. Allah, God, to whom praises is due, is here to give you and me a superior knowledge of things and a country of ourselves. Chapter 21. The Hopeful and the Hopeless. We must have faith in the truth when it comes to us. We so-called Negroes today are divided into 2 classes, the hopeful and the hopeless. The 2 classes confuse each other. The poor, uneducated, underprivileged, the victims of the lawless brute force of our enemies are the hopeful, and they gladly bear the truth as it is written in Mark 12:37. The intellectuals, the rich, the religious leaders and teachers of the old order are always the diehards with the rulers of the people. The poor so-called Negroes, the lost-found members of the tribe of Shabazz. Allah, God, is now opening their hearts for the acceptance of the truth, the knowledge of self and others, the true religion, Islam, the religion in which the believers are rightly guided, backed and protected by the author, Allah, God. The truth Islam inspires hope in them for a better future in a better world where freedom, justice and equality is the nature and rule of the people, where hypocrites and murderers will not be tolerated. It will be a future wherein every believer is the brother of the believers, and this principle is carried into practice every minute of the hour. The poor wants freedom indeed. He wants equal justice, equal opportunity, and an equal chance to bring into practice every good faculty that is latent in him. He wants to live under a government of righteousness, and where unjust judges and rulers will not exist, where the poor enjoys peace and security equally with the rich and the rulers of the land. Allah, through their belief is Islam, makes the once slaves to lift up their heads in pride, honor, and respect. The once slaves are made to feel equal with their masters and is fired with the spirit or doing for self. He will want to be a servant for no one except Allah, to whom his life becomes dedicated. He now, for the first time, feels like a man with a true sense of self, pride. He now has hope and is hopeful of his future. Now, as all other independent people, he wants some of this earth he can call his own, wherein he and his people can set up a government of his choice. This is the effect Islam has upon the believers. The hopeless are the rich and wealthy, teachers, educators, religious leaders, and politicians' lovers, the friends of the enemies of the poor. They have no hope in self or in their nation. Their hopes are in the robbers of their people, the white slave masters. They are qualified to start self-government, except for having the knowledge of self. Many of them are experts in every avenue of the political sciences and government, were given the chance to study and learn from the slave masters. But they just feel and believe that to try leaving their old slave masters and teachers will cause them to go to the breadline. They are hopeless. They would rather lick the boots of their masters than to leave their masters and demand some of this earth they can call their own, wherein they can set up their own government to their own likeness. We 20 million so-called Negroes cannot forever depend on the white race to make jobs for us and our children. We must prepare and qualify men of our own race to help lead and put our people in the paradise of self-rulership. We have in you, and in us, if united, the know-how to create and make jobs for ourselves and people. Why do we not do it? It is because of the enemy of hopelessness in the ability of self to do something for self. For too long we have been dependent upon the slave masters. Let us stand up as men and demand or take some of this earth for our 20 million homeless, whether the world like it or not. We must have a home on some of this earth we can call our own, and a tea any price. Chapter 22. We must have more than a job. The condition and history of my people, the so-called Negro in America, is pitiful and a disgrace before civilized people of the earth. We have nothing of our own. We can only say we have what the slave master and his children have given us. It is a foolish idea to depend on the white man to care for us and our ever-increasing population. The leader of the nation of the black man in America must get this foolish idea out of their heads, and quick. I think the American white man has done a good job in a manner of speaking and caring for us 100 years after he has said to our fathers that we were free. We have not exercised that freedom, nor have we asked the rulers of the land to let us go for ourselves. We have not said to the slave master, "Take that which belongs to you, and let us have that which you have taken from us." Instead, we have acted as a lazy man. My people have constantly asked the white man to give, give, and give. Their cry has been of pleading and begging. To the slave master it has been said, "I want the love and friendship of you who have enslaved my fathers, not the love of my own kind." This is the prevailing idea of the leadership of the so-called American Negro. Their craving is to be made like their slave master and his children. Let me be like them. Let me be the brother or sister of white America. They ask this before they even love their own kind. We have been craving for the love of other than our own kind. It is an act of which we should be ashamed. It is an act of craving that is disgracing you and your children. It is an act that keeps you a slave and causes criticism by the civilized nations of the earth. I desire that you think along the terms of Elijah Muhammad. The so-called Negro must be separated from his slave master and his children. He must be given the chance to build a nation for himself. He must be given the chance to go for self. The so-called Negro is 400 years behind with a history in the Western Hemisphere written in hard labor, injustice, and blood. We have always been ready to jump to our feet and defend the slave master against his enemies. For those lost lives and efforts, we have nothing today. My people have become a nation of beggars. We only beg the master for a job. We want sport and play on an equal basis with the rich white man of America. The country belongs to the white man who took it from the red Indian. All we have asked for is a job. Then we give the paycheck back to the white paymaster. We keep $5 to sit in a show or a game of sport and play. The Bible states, "We are a foolish people. You must get out of such foolish acts. You must unite and help me. Regardless of your fear of the slave master and his children, you must unite with me. We have before us a job that must be done. We must care for and deliver our people. Our people are crying for freedom, moaning for justice, and calling for equality to be free to integrate, intermarry, or mix the blood as this is already going on. It is a disgrace before the nations of the earth. Almighty God, Allah is in our midst today to bring the so-called American Negro out of the hands of the slave master, just as he delivered Moses and his people out of the hands of Pharaoh from a 400-year period of bondage. Chapter 23. Know Thyself Party. There is now an effort to celebrate a so-called Negro History Week, beginning February 12, and some of my people will participate The planning of that week to teach the slave a knowledge of his past is not complete, sufficient, nor comprehensive enough to enable my people to learn the true knowledge of themselves. It is important that my people learn the true knowledge of self, as it means their salvation. We are not Negroes because God, whose proper name is Allah, has taught me who we are. We are not colored people because God has taught me who we are, and He has taught me who the colored people are. The poor so-called American Negro is without a knowledge of self. You are a so-called Negro because you are not a Negro. Allah, God, has given to me our proper names, the people from which we were taken and brought here to the shores of North America, and the history of our forefathers. Allah has taught me, and today I do not fear to tell you that you can discard that name Negro. We are not colored. Those are some of the main things which we should remember. We must become aware of the knowledge of self and the time in which we are living. You must know these things whether you agree that Elijah Muhammad is on time or out of time. If what I say is out of season, it goes for nothing. If I am on time or in season, then all I say will bear fruit. There is much misunderstanding among us because of our inferior knowledge of self. We have been to schools where they do not teach us the knowledge of self. We have been to the schools of our slave masters' children. We have been to their schools and gone as far as they allowed us to go. That was not far enough for us to learn a knowledge of self. The lack of knowledge of self is one of our main handicaps. It blocks us throughout the world. If you were the world, and you are a part of the world, you would also turn a man down if he didn't know who he actually was. If we, the so-called Negroes, don't know ourselves, how can we be accepted by a people who have a knowledge of self? If we are representing ourselves as Negroes and colored people, how did we get these names? Where do we find the age or the record of Negroes and colored people in the ancient history of black man? Your search of the ancient history of the black man of the earth will prove that not once in time were Negroes or colored people living in Asia or Africa. How did we come by those names? The names are from the slave masters. They have called us by their names and the nicknames used among them. It even seems that we like being called by the slave masters' names. After nearly 100 years of freedom, we are still representing ourselves by the names our slave master called us. We must learn that the slave masters' names are not accepted by God or by the righteous people of God. It is time for us to learn who we really are. And it is time for us to understand ourselves. That true knowledge is here for you today, whether you accept it or reject it. God has said that we are members of the original people or black nation of the earth. Original means first. Historian Ja Rogers points out in his books that beyond the cotton fields of the South and long before the white man himself was a part of our planet, we were the original people ruling the earth, and according to the Holy Quran, we had governments superior than any we are experiencing today. Trace over the earth. Check back 5, 10, or 20,000 years ago. Look at history as to who were those people. They were our people. Today we are confronted with proof of who the original people are and who shall live on this earth and call it their own. Chapter 24. Know Thyself Part 2. The first shall be the last. If we are the first people, and that is an undeniable fact, we shall be the last. We cannot find a people who were before the black man. Beyond a shadow of doubt, the black man was the first man in the sun. If we preach a doctrine today that the black man will be the last and that he will come into power today, why should you be surprised? Should you be surprised to learn that the so-called American Negro is a member of that nation which was here trillions of years before the white race? Should you be surprised that we preach the black man will be here after others are gone? The original tree is stronger than its branches. We have been robbed, spoiled, and buried under the rubbish heap. Allah has told me that we are the original people. We are the father of all races. If truth is called teaching supremacy, then it will have to stand. An examination will prove to the contrary. You will find white supremacy is taught to us in the north, south, east, and west of America. It is a shame. The white race's achievements, history, inventions, discoveries, ownership, progressiveness, and godliness are from us, the original nation. Some scholars say that we have come to the crossroads. They say that we have met on the field of decision. I don't condemn them. I say the so-called Negro has arrived at the day in which we must make our minds up to take our place alongside our own kind. We are in a day that we have no time for sport and play, nor are we in a day that we should sit down, sing love songs, or play games of chance. We are in a serious time, a time when the old world is going out and a new world is coming in. The solution to our problem is separation from the white world. Some of us think that we cannot solve our problems unless we have it dictated by our slave masters' children. Those are the thoughts of you who have lost your heads. It is time that you know self, and know that Allah God is in our midst, manifesting the time. You will soon come to know that there is no God but Allah, and I am His servant. Be yourself. Allah has said that you are the best, the powerful. Chapter 25. We must have land as other nations, you say, but I don't want the white man to carry us. Just give us an equal chance. What kind of equal chance? What do 20 million people look like milling around in a factory of white people all the days of their lives and their children's lives, looking for a job? We need to look for some land. Who will recognize millions and millions of people who will not protest their condition? Yours and my condition here in America is the worst of any people on earth. It is unequaled, and we are without one tiny state in the Union. We are still demanding equality. The white man will not accept you as his equal because he knows his slave is not his equal. He does not want you to marry his daughter. He does not want you as his son or his son-in-law, even though you greedily desire to be. You are most eager for integration, so you may have a chance of intermixing and intermarrying with them than you are for justice for your people and getting some land. Land for you and your children on this earth. If I am your equal as you are a citizen, then prove that I am a citizen of America by giving to me some earth like that which you own. The so-called American Negroes can never have a successful future in America as long as they do not own some earth. You are a nation within a nation. You have been carried by another nation all your life, here in America for more than 400 years. Today you continue to beg them to carry you and recognize you as their equal without even asking them for something. You are not asking them for anything worthwhile. Why don't you unite as leaders and go down to Washington and tell the Washington leaders, we don't want to sit in your schools beside you. What we really want from you, if you don't want to let us go, is a place for our people in this country. You have said that we are free. Let us go. If we are not going and you will not help us to go, then give us a chance to live to ourselves here. We don't want to force our presence on you and upon your children. If you will not let us go and seek earth somewhere else other than America, then set aside some of these states for us. The so-called American Negroes say they don't want to be separated, and that is because of their inferior knowledge of their own kind and the white race. If you had a thorough of yourself and a thorough knowledge of the white race, you would desire to be separated. What have the slave masters done in the way of justice that we should want to live with them? What have they done in the way of justice that we should want to eat with them, drink with them, walk with them, or marry them? What have they done for us that make the so-called Negroes desire them? It appears to be their greatest desire to make unity and love to the slave master's children. You should first make unity and love among yourselves and your own kind. I think white people would be foolish to accept a so-called Negro as a friend or as a neighbor of theirs, when he is not a friend or neighbor to himself. We are divided. There is no unity among us. We have allowed the slave master's religion to divide us 100%. We do not have a knowledge of the white men or ourselves. I have told you the truth. Some of you say and write that Elijah is teaching hate. What is there in the teachings of Elijah Muhammad that you can single out as hate teaching? What part or the whole of this teaching do you construe as hate? If I say that you should love yourself as a black man, is that hate? I say that black men are the people from whom you were taken. Is that hate? I say the white race came after the black and is a grafted race from the black man. Is that hate? I am not telling you to hate white people. I am only telling you who they are. We are very quick to single out one of our own as an enemy when he speaks up for the good of black mankind. I am for the black man. Some of you may not like me because I love my own kind. Any man that is brown, yellow, red, or coal black is a member of the black nation. Any man who has not accepted self or speak and love others more than his own kind cannot be trusted. The time has arrived for the truth. You should know exactly where you stand. There are no people more blessed this day than the so-called American Negroes, who have been chosen by Allah Himself, the God of the universe. You and I should be happy to know today that we have on our side a God who defends and guides us. You may believe in that which the slave master gave to you for a religion, but you must prove to me that it was the religion of the prophets. You may say, the Negro is not mentioned in the Bible or any holy book. If you don't see where you are mentioned by the name Negro, it is only right that you should discard the name. Then see if you can find yourself under some other name. Almighty God, Allah, has taught me the truth to teach to you. I must deliver it to you whether you accept it or not. It is not my fault if you reject it after I offer the truth to you. It is my fault if I don't offer to you the truth God gave to me. What day are we living in? We are living in the day of judgment of the Caucasian world. We are living in the day in which we should separate. You must know this even though your minds are filled with wealth, sport, and play. It is the time of judgment of this world as you and I have known it. There are scholars who think this is the time of their judgment. Who is going to tell you if one of your own kind does not? Are you looking again for a spirit god? Chapter 26. Mr. Muhammad speaks the Monroe, Louisiana, Southern courts with their Southern judges of hatred and attorneys of hatred, and our Negro bloodthirsty take their own law of justice, twist it up and throw it back up on the shelf. And when they look and see a poor innocent so-called Negro begging for justice as his grandparents before their grandparents is far, Back as 400 years ago, they received nothing but the spitting of anger and threats of murder from the judge throughout the courts of America. Just to mention justice for a so-called Negro in the South is an insult to the judge, who is supposed to be the judge of right and wrong between the state and opposing attorneys. He becomes more a vicious enemy against the poor so-called Negro than even the prosecuting attorney when he sees a so-called Negro before him. The so-called Negroes have no justice under the law, not only in the South, but nowhere in America. As I plainly stated this in Washington, D.C., in 1959 in the Uline Arena before 10 million people that everything has failed us as far as justice is concerned, the Justice Department in Washington, the churches, the priests, and the preachers have all failed the so-called Negroes when it comes to justice. By the help of Allah, and by the blood of the original man whose father is the originator, I, Elijah Muhammad, will fight for this cause to get our people justice in America. And by the help and power of Allah and the power of the universe, and the power that is in the nation of Islam, and the power of every atom that is bound in the planet Earth and that is bound in other planets. What angers America is just the idea of her 400-year-old slaves now wanting to go over to the paradise of freedom. Justice and equality under the crescent of the divine religion of Islam, where they will have sincere brotherhood and friends throughout the civilized world. America knows that under her flag we have received nothing but hell, beatings and killings without due process of law day and night. Not in the past only, but the present. She wants to make some so-called Negroes believe that the religion of Islam can be thrown out the window by turning hypocrites themselves in trying to make democracy work. This is done just to deceive the so-called American Negroes. But I say to everyone who reads this paper that Islam is here among these black people to stay as long as there is life in their bodies. The God of Islam, Allah, is with me and will back me and others up who are working hard to deliver our people from such an evil and merciless race of devils. What glory and honor does a so-called Negro get under the stars and stripes? No honor, no glory, only hell. We have proof of this by their so-called courts and justice. There is no justice for us, and this America knows. She would like to hurt every one of you and make you like it. It pleases America to do you evil. But not we Muslims. We will declare the truth and die for it. Thanks to Allah for removing fear from us, and I pray He puts it in them that they may fear and tremble every day until they be taken out of the way. Chapter 27. Mushroom growth of Negro Muslim movement bared the Negro Muslim movement, whose California headquarters are in Los Angeles, came under investigation more than 2 years ago. The State Senate Fact-Finding Subcommittee on Unamerican Activities disclosed Monday. Since that time, the movement has grown at an amazing pace. The committee reported, the movement, which is sometimes referred to by its officers as the Lost Found Nation of Islam in North America, is competing with the communists for the Negro minority, the report said. It too is based on force and violence and class hatred. It too operates in secrecy and is based on a fanatic adherence to a potent ideology. It too advocates the forcible overthrow of our government, indeed, of the entire white race. Estimating that Muslim members number 70,000 in the country, the committee declared, every real or fancied act of discrimination drives more Negroes into Muslim ranks. Prominent Negro leaders throughout the country have unanimously condemned the Muslim movement. But virtually all of them concede that it has exerted a great appeal to many Negroes. It has given them a purpose, a hope, something to work for. It has bound them together with ties of religious and anti-white fanaticism. And although members declare they are conscientious objectors, they would at the same time eagerly rise in violence against the white man. The report said Muslims advocate separation from the white slave master and building a social and economic system for the deliverance and salvation of the Negro people. Muslims in prisons, the report pointed out, have been causing trouble by demanding complete segregation from white inmates and the right to practice their rights. The movement was founded in 1933 by Wallace Fard in Detroit, and for the last 15 years has been headed by Elijah Poole, calls Muhammad, the messenger of Allah. The main office of the California Muslims is at Washington BLVD. And Figueroa Saint Muslims, the report said, are required to follow many of the dictates of the Muslim religion. This includes praying 5 times a day facing toward Mecca. The committee wondered whether the Smith Act, which resulted in the conviction of so many communist leaders in this country, might not be applied to the Muslims. Chapter 28. A Nation in a Nation We. The once slaves have grown to be a nation of 20 million or more in a nation that enslaved our fathers, and to this day has deprived us of equal justice under their own laws. No equal civil right. Most of us are treated by white citizens of America as animals. It is common to see and hear of white mobs attacking, beating, and shooting down poor blacks whose fathers and mothers labor. Sweat and blood helped make America the richest government on earth. Nevertheless, we are yet the most hated and mistreated people. Allah God wants to make a great nation out of us so-called Negroes. But if we desire to remain the slave or servants for our slave masters, it is all right with Allah. Do we love ourselves and our children? If so, why not we build a future for ourselves rather than beg the same slave masters for jobs and equal shares in whatever they have, even to equal membership in their society and families intermarriage? This is definitely not a wise thing to do, but a very foolish and destructive thing for the once slave and his master to do. By the help and guidance of Allah God, I have put before you the wise and best thing for your future. Firstly, some of this earth that we can call our own. Without some of this earth that we can call our own, we cannot hope to even become a free nation out of the nation of the slave master. It is far more important to teach separation of the blacks and whites in America than prayer. Teach and train the blacks to do something for self in the way of uniting and seeking a home on this earth that they can call their own. There is no such thing as living in peace with white Americans. You and I have tried without success. Look what white Americans did to my followers in Los Angeles, California, on April 27, 1962. They know that we, the Muslims, are a peaceful people and do not carry arms. But the heartless enemy devils care not for peace. They were created and made to hate peace. Night and day they are out seeking a chance to beat and kill you, while at the same time you are out seeking to show them how much you love them. A very foolish people you are. How can anyone other than you, so-called Negroes, love an open enemy? It is the right time that we seek independence for our nation from the evils of our open enemies, and not the foolish things other organizations are doing. They want our people integrated into our open enemies, to be destroyed as a people. They seek that recognition, which means better qualifications, education, knowledge of self and others, manners and self-respect and the respect of others. But our people just do not have these qualifications until they first come to Islam and bear witness to what Allah God has revealed to me. No intelligent and refined society will accept us until we have the above stated qualifications. We just cannot complete with them in business unless we unite and get some of this earth that we can produce our own people's needs. For example, here in Chicago, Illinois, the black man is robbed on the south side of the city through giant cut-rate stores owned by the white man, who makes it almost impossible for black people's independent stores to survive. But with the right understanding and business unity among us, we could turn this great flow of millions of dollars from going to the north side's white businessmen back into the pockets of the poor black men on the south side. Ask me how you can do it. We must stop being foolish as to spend our few hard-earned dollars with the rich of the land. You who are wealthy or rich among us should help set up independent businesses that your people demand, which would add wealth to your people and also yourself through lower prices. This would also give employment to our people. But to be successful, we must have some of this earth to produce our people's needs. Chapter 29, So-Called Negro Leadership. Party, the leadership of my people, the so-called American Negro, has absolutely aided the slave master in keeping us a subjected people. The leadership continues to make a cry for social equality with white people. What intelligent people would want to fraternize, intermingle, integrate, sweetheart, and marry the kidnappers, murderers, enslavers, and burners of their people? Only a people such as my people with blind leadership would ever desire or strive for such a lowly, disgraceful act. The blind cannot lead the blind. The leaders of my people want and show great favor with the slave master against the good of their own people. The so-called Negro editors, preachers, lawyers, and other professional leaders of our people continue to lead the fight in begging the white man for civil rights. History shows we have been in this part of the world for more than 400 years. We served more than 300 of those years in servitude slavery. We have been so-called free for 100 years since we were freed. We have been called citizens of America. Why then are we seeking civil rights if we are citizens of America? Why should the leaders of our people continue to beg the government to grant us civil rights? We don't have to beg the government to give us those glorious benefits that are laid down in the Constitution in the 13th and 14th Amendments. If we are citizens, we should be enjoying them without asking for them. Yet, we are still begging for justice. You need a better leadership. The preacher leadership of my people is in the most ignorant class. They knowingly lead our people to a path of destruction and disaster because of their love of and fear of the enslavers of their people. We have records of several so-called Negro preachers who have made attempts to attack and destroy the Muslims and myself, the messenger of Allah. Reverend Borders of Atlanta, Georgia, on April 9th, went on the air and stated to a radio audience that he would drive the Muslims from the city of Atlanta if he had the people with him. Reverend Borders would have an easier task of trying to dry the oceans up rather than direct his slave master's slave-keeping attacks at us. Another preacher in Monroe, Louisiana, said the white officers who broke into our religious service March 5th on an unarmed people should have killed us. This ignorant preacher, eager to show his slave master that he is not with us, calls for the defeat of his own people. Reverend Gardner C. Taylor, who was warring with Reverend Jackson for control in the white man's Baptist religion, chose the occasion again to denounce the Muslims who practice Islam, the religion of Almighty God Allah. The preachers claim that they are men of God. Where is their proof? It was the preachers who condemned Jesus to his death. It was the elders who opposed Moses. It has always been the clergy class who opposed the prophets of God. Yes, the scribes and Pharisees, as they are referred to in the scriptures, have always opposed the righteous men of Allah. They oppose me today. The religious leaders of our people will soon learn they cannot overcome the purpose of God. In the 61st surah of the Holy Quran, it states that they desire to put out the word of Allah with their mouth. The so-called Negro leadership does not care to give their own people justice as long as the white man does not. The Negro leadership and the slave masters are as two murderers and thieves of my people. The white man murders us as the Negro leaders rob us. In fact, both will rob us. Since our being kidnapped and brought to America, we have received nothing but promises. It is promises which today satisfy the leaders of my people. There is the promise of fair employment and integration, or social mixing. The devil is full of tricks and we cannot put any confidence in him. The leaders of my people must remember that we are all black people of the black nation. The hurt of one member should be the hurt of all of us. Regardless of the type of leader for my people, he should not be afraid to speak for his brother. Regardless to where he may be, the leader should be for his brother. He should not flinch. My people must wake up and know their present leaders have failed them. Such leadership should and must be discarded. The religion of Islam has powerful, life-giving effects on the believers. Islam makes the believer feel that he should get up and begin doing something for self. Islam makes you and I see each other as brothers. Islam arouses the old love for each other that was put asleep in us by the slave master. I represent Islam as a religion to you. I want you to know the power and effect of that religion on us. If you ever accept Islam, you will stand up as one people and a nation. You will not lie as a race of slaves. We have a God with us. He is not to come because he is already here. Many Christians will admit that God must be present among us. Some of us today in this vast moving world do not even take a moment of time to think or even check to see if this is the day of God's visit to a people, or if it is the day of the devil's visit. I have been sent directly from Almighty God, whose proper name is Allah. He has given me that which the prophets wrote of, which will give my people life. It will bring light to you and your understanding will return. The leadership of my people would be wise in joining with me in this divine awakening of our people. Their interference will lead only to their destruction in a lake of fire with the enemy of their people. Chapter 30. So-called Negro Leadership, Part 2. Why do you oppose freedom, justice, and equality for your people and self? Freedom indeed has not been given to you in America. No equal justice has come to you, or equal opportunity. Should not the leadership seek well for his people, even at the cost of his life? What future do we have in being integrated in the white race who are the children of those who enslaved our fathers and mothers? Daily, we live under the very shadow of death at the hands of their children. We want for our 20 million people here in America what white America has for herself. You are a nation within a nation, depending on white America for sole existence, without trying or even seeking a chance to try and do something for self, other than to beg for that which belongs to white America. You beg as though you are too lazy to work and build a future for self. What future do 20 million no whites have among their slave masters? Is not it clear to you that your hopes of existence depend only on whatever type of labor the white man will offer you? Can you hope to continue seeking employment for your 20 million people in the factories and offices of the white man, while he already has unemployment among his own which is increasing daily? The ever-changing map of the white world is increasing their problem of existence. You may be unable to see and foresee this. This is why we would like to help you see. 20 million ex-slaves failing or refusing to see and go for self today will prove to be fatal for them in the near future. If the blind cannot see his way and refuses to be led by the hand of the seeing one, who can be sorry for his stumbles and falls? Allah, God, is with us to do something for self, but you are opposed to doing something for self and choose to beg for the crumbs, while there are clear signs that soon there will be no crumbs for you. Judge between you and me in what I am seeking for our people and what you are seeking for them. I am seeking a permanent home for my people where they can be free to build a future for themselves. If you were only wise enough to come and confer with us, the picture would be a different one. Gone forever is the Negro mule and plow. The white man is ever advancing in the science of machinery, mechanical devices, and is rapidly putting our people in the breadlines. Something must be done by us to check the spread of poverty, suffering, and want of our people. We do not have to seek the solution. God has given it himself. Submit to Allah, unite, and let us go for self on some of this good earth. You, as religious leaders of the people, are doing your people more harm than good in seeking to integrate them with the slave master for total destruction. We must be separated from those who have enslaved us and are not willing to do justice, nor grant us equal opportunity. We must unite and seek these things for ourselves. Chapter 31. No Justice for So-Called Negroes Party. The so-called Negroes of America will soon learn that there is no justice under the flag of America for them. You will soon bear witness that the white race of America is none other than the real devils in person. As Allah has said, if you will only think how they have mistreated you and I for the past 400 years, and the things that they have planned against the so-called Negroes, you would say to Allah and His Messenger that you bear witness there is no God but Allah, who has revealed to us the truth and pointed out to us our open enemies, the devils who have been concealed from our knowledge. They hate God for making them manifest, and they curse the name of Allah, God, in the presence of the Muslims. They have been persecuting us ever since 1932, without a just cause. Many times we have been attacked by them with intentions of crushing us to keep you from hearing the truth of them that God has revealed. They have not and cannot deny the fact that they are the real devils. This truth of them they call hate teachings, for they know you would not like them if their true self was revealed to you. All one has to do is to read the past history of the white race, and you will find that they have filled the world with evil and bloodshed since the day they were grafted and given the power to rule. That power is now being taken from them. They do not love peace. They hate the black people and cannot and do not try to hide it. They will make false charges against you, hire false witnesses to testify against you even among your own black people, and say that you are planning evil and take you into their courts before their unjust judges and juries, and give life imprisonment for nothing. When you hire a lawyer, he has to argue your case with both the prosecutor and judge, who are supposed to listen and judge the justice of the argument made between the opposing and defense lawyers according to the evidence of the case. In our case, we the poor black people of America, especially if he or she is a Muslim and follower of Elijah Muhammad, you will see the judge fighting the defense as much as the prosecutor. It is almost useless to hire a lawyer of your color or kind, because they don't give him any respect, regardless to how much he knows about the law. The black lawyers know this. Consequently, he is really afraid to use that part of the law that would help their clients or prove to the world that there is no justice in the lily-white courts of America that the white man is bound to respect when it comes to the so-called Negroes, unless the Negro is an Uncle Tom or a stool pigeon who is as poisonous against his or her own kind as the devils themselves. A couple of weeks ago, in Monroe, Louisiana, the chief and commissioner of the police force went to a peaceful assembly of my followers where they were praising Allah, God, and teaching others of their kind to do likewise behind closed doors. The chief and commissioner, without any warrant or protest from the people, or any disturbance of the peace, goes and break the door in with their other officers and start beating the heads of the peacefully assembled people, and hauls them to jail, put false charges against them, and set their bonds from $1,500 to $2,500. Within 1 week, they were ready to railroad them to prison for long terms for nothing but to try to hide their own evil done against a peaceful people. If we had not been present with a lawyer of their kind and the cash for bond. Chapter 32. No Justice for So-Called Negroes. Part 2. We await the day of April 18th when Judge W.M. Harper sentences 8 Muslims whom Monroe police beat and brutally assaulted for worshiping in the religion of Islam. The police placed false charges against the Muslims to cover up their own disregard of the laws. It is stated in the U.S. Constitution that a person may practice any religion of his choosing, has the right of free speech and peaceful assembly without sanction by government authorities. Police Chief James Kelly stated to several of the Muslims during investigation of the religion of Islam that he would not tolerate the religion of Islam in Monroe. The Muslims face 1-year compulsory jail sentences and $500 fines each. Faced with the sentence, Islamic teacher Troy X said, "There is no God but Allah and Muhammad is his apostle." The city officials of Monroe made an all-out effort to break the Muslim spirit and means and ways for obtaining defense counsel. The Muslims were attacked in their mosque, a religious place of worship in Islam, by the police armed with machine guns, tear gas, and heavy caveman-like clubs. The unarmed Muslims were beaten, arrested, and placed under false charges of assaulting police officers on Sunday, March 5th. Included among arrested were children and the 4 months pregnant Muslim wife of the Islamic teacher. The Muslims were unable to get attorneys in Monroe to defend them in court as the local authorities brought political pressure on the attorneys. Every bonding company in Louisiana refused bonds to release the Muslims who were held in jail 10 days. Muhammad's mosque headquarters in Chicago secured the services of attorney James R. Venerable of Atlanta, Georgia. The headquarters mosque placed $1,500 each as bail for the release of the Muslims. Attorney Venerable was arrested after the trial for auto theft, even though he is numbered among the wealthiest white men of Georgia. Veteran observers said these false charges against the attorney were further intimidations to prevent the Muslims' right to counsel. For 400 years, we have been deprived of equal justice. Mr. Patrick M. Mullen, Executive Director, American Civil Liberties Union, wrote Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy to intervene. Mr. Mullen stated, "If the facts as presented to us by the Muslim group are correct, a violation of federal civil rights seemed to have occurred." Many legal experts doubted that the Justice Department would take serious note of the violations of the freedoms of religion provision in the U.S. Constitution. Attorney General Kennedy had information on the Muslims before the trial and failed to guarantee civil rights. All this is to prove that we have no justice under the American flag. Chapter 33. No justice for us. In USA, we have wondered why white people hate and mistreat us after we have been so obedient, so submissive, with hat in hand and a scared smile or grin on our faces from ear to ear. We have killed their enemies for them, and sometimes those whom they called their enemies were our own people. For 400 years, we've tried to understand why the white race here in America hate, beat, and kill their helpless free slaves, and yet preach Jesus Christ and God's love and justice. But even those white preachers and priests, the Pope, Father of the Church, have never united and protested to the government against the lawless, outright beating and killing of us, the so-called American Negroes, members of the tribe of Shabazz. Injustice increased even today, while the government is offering integration, which will not solve our problem but make it harder to solve injustice to us, have increased. And the so-called God-sent white and black preachers of Christianity are not using their churches and followers to protest against these injustices. We are witnesses them into a lake of fire. The lake is none other than the entire continent of North against them, even by the recent police brutality and murder of our people in Los Angeles, April 27, 1962. We do not have united Christian preachers or priests of the churches protesting against such unprovoked, lawless, outright murder of our people. Even according to the Los Angeles Times and the Herald Examiner newspapers, the black preachers spoke in sympathy with that ungodly, merciless, brute police force headed by the worst hater William Parker of the black people in this unjust government of America. Today, Allah is making them manifest to the world as a race of devils, made to be our enemies and murderers until the day of their doom, which is very near. It's free devil murders here in North America will the fire of hell take place first on those who sit and rejoice to see poor, innocent black men burned to ashes at the hands of the free devil murderers of our people. The black people of America must be given the knowledge of self and of these open, heartless devils whose aims today are to take the poor black people to hell with them, while at the same time give you as much death and hell at their hands before Allah takes them into a lake of fire. The lake is none other than the entire continent of North America. They teach love, but this does not mean that they love you because of your belief in Christianity. No, but rather that you love them. This will make you an enemy of God. I have warned you the white race's name alone will get you hell from God. They would like that you believe as you have always in that which they taught you. Christianity, they call the truth that I have received from Allah hate teachings because it makes them manifest. Who could love the devils after having the knowledge of them? Deliver poor and needy. Read the following chapters and verses from your Bible which refers to you and them. Psalms 82, 3, 4. Do justice to the afflicted, deliver the poor and needy, rid them out of the hands of the wicked. The white devils of the USA, they, the black people of America, know not, neither will they understand. They walk on into darkness. All the foundation of the earth is out of course. Not the earth itself, but the governments of the wicked is out of a wise course. Justice standeth afar off for the so-called Negroes. Truth is fallen in the streets, is not accepted. None calleth for justice. When it is for the so-called Negroes, nor any pleadeth for the truth, they trust the devil's lies, the devil's feet run to do evil, they make haste to shed innocent blood. Kill a so-called Negro, their thoughts are evil, wasting and destruction. Isa 59, 4, 9, 14. Let us unite and seek some of this good earth for a home that we can call our own. Leave a people who are daily bent upon your destruction, your disgrace and shame alone. Chapter 34. Some earth that we can call our own. Stop wasting your money. Your money was not given to you, it came the hard way, so why should you give it away for that which you can do without? If you and I would do just that, we could save millions of dollars which we could put into education, the purchasing of land, machines, poultry, milk cows, beef cattle, sheep, and machines to cultivate the land to cut and saw timber to build homes for ourselves. We should dig for mud to mold and burn into bricks for our own homes and factories, and grow our own cotton to make the clothes which we wear. We should feed our own stomach and hire our own scientists from among ourselves, produce our own needs, and capture our own market before it is too late. How can we begin? Stop spending money for tobacco, dope, cigarettes, whiskey, wine, beer, fine clothes, fine automobiles, fine furniture, expensive rugs and carpets, gambling, prostitution, idleness, sport and play, games of chance and horse racing. Stop careless spending of money, credits, and loans at a high interest, which means selling yourselves to slave for the loan sharks. Stop going into stores seeking the highest priced merchandise to purchase. Buy according to your means, your income. If your income is only $75 or $100 per week, and your rent is about the same every month, and food about the same price, and you have clothes, transportation, and other little bills to pay, can you then afford a high-priced care note of $100 to $145 per month? If you must have a car, buy the low-priced car, or a rich man's used car, and not his used Cadillacs and Rolls Royces. I hope that you will begin leaving off the use of these things which you do not need to buy. For your health's sake, stop eating the swine's flesh, the animal that was grafted from cat, rat, and dog for medical purposes, and sold to be 999% poison. Live and act as a civilized person, and we will soon be able to say that we are living like civilized people, along with love and unity in the name of your God and religion Islam. If you will write to the Public Relations Department, Muhammad's Mosque No. 2, Chicago, Illinois, we will send you information on how we can help build a great future for the so-called Negroes in America, by just sacrificing the money that we throw away to destroy our health in cigarettes, beer, wine, hog, and whiskey. For 1 week out of each month, Allah God does not like for us to break His law by eating the swine's flesh, drinking intoxicating drinks, and using the poison tobacco weed. We must make a better future for ourselves and our children. Stop wasting and spending our money with the rich and spend it among ourselves, for we are the poor. Stop walking past your own black brother's business to buy the merchandise of the rich just because the rich can sell at a lower price than your poor brother. Trade with your own kind until you are able to compete in prices. Chapter 35, Peace Party. Can there be any peace for the peace breaker? Allah told me that 6,000 years ago, this same people's fathers, white race, broke the peace of the righteous in the gardens of Eden, the place that is known as Old Persia. They called the truth of God a lie and made lies the truth. They said to the people of the garden, according to the Bible, General 3:4-6, and the serpent, a name used according to the evil, deceiving characteristics of the Caucasian race, said unto the woman, You shall not surely die, for God doth know that in the day you eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be as gods. The serpent lied, because they did die. And the deceiver serpent was driven out of the garden into the wilderness of the earth to build a wicked kingdom of evil to be destroyed on the coming of God. They, the white race, are playing the same trick on the black nation today as they did in the days of Adam. They shall suffer eternal expulsion from this earth in a lake of fire. Reverend 2010. Can they enjoy peace? After they were cast out of the garden, according to the Holy Quran 7:16, because thou hast thrown me out of the way, lo, I will lie in wait for them on the straight way. As he had deceived Adam and his wife, he now declares that he will deceive the righteous in their straight path in the days of the resurrection and judgment of his evil world. He swore to them in another place that he would lead them to a tree of immorality and a kingdom that decays not. This kind of teaching is found in the teachings of Christianity. It is a very clever way of deceiving the black people of America, for here, Satan represents himself as an angel of light. They paint a picture of lies of beyond the grave, when they know there is no life or communication with the dead. All ceases to be life after death. This is universally known. Can they have peace? When they were created to destroy the peace of the righteous, as it is written, Destruction cometh, and they shall seek peace, and there shall be none. Mischief shall come upon mischief, and rumor shall be upon rumor. Ezekiel 7:25. They wrongfully represent themselves as peacemakers and lovers of peace and freedom, but only for themselves. This kind of talk deceives the nations while at the same time they are the troublemakers, as it is written, But the wicked are like the troubled sea when it cannot rest, whose waters cast up mire and dirt. So it is with this wicked race, whom God has permitted to become the richest and most progressed people of earth. The more they increase in riches and power, the more they seek to trouble those that are at peace with them. They envy the peace and progress of others and are never satisfied, though they have the world bowing at their feet. They are forever deceiving the poor so-called Negroes with false promises, and the so-called Negroes seem to love it. There is no peace for the wicked, saith the God of peace, Isa 57:20-21. The only peace today is with Allah and in His religion of peace, Islam. Believe it or leave it. Hurry and join on to your own kind. The time of this world is at hand. Chapter 36, Peace Part 2, Islam, the religion of entire submission to the will of Allah. God, nay, whoever submits his whole self to Allah and is a doer of good, he will get his reward with his Lord. On such shall be no fear, nor shall they grieve. Holy Quran 2:11. That, and that alone is salvation according to the Holy Quran. Fear is the number one enemy that is blocking progress and success from coming to the so-called Negroes of America. This fear causes them to grieve. The world knows the poor so-called Negroes of America have and still suffers more grief and sorrow than any people on earth. This fear is the fear of the slave masters, white men, and what the slave masters dislike. Let the so-called Negroes submit to Allah God, and they will not fear anymore, nor will they grieve anymore. As it is written, the fear of man bringeth a snare. Proverbs 2:9-25. This fear has surely snared the poor so-called Negroes. The Lord of the worlds, the finder of we the lost members of the Asiatic black nation for 400 years said, the slave masters put fear in our fathers when they were babies. Allah is the only one that can remove this fear from us, but he will not remove it from us until we submit to his will and not our will, and fear him and him alone. Then, as it is written, and it shall come to pass in the day that the Lord shall grieve thee rest from sorrow, and from thy fear, and from the hard bondage wherein thou wast made to serve. Bible, Isaiah 14:3. There are so many places that I could point out in the Bible and Holy Quran that warns us of fearing our enemies above or equal to the fear of Allah God. It is a fool that has greater fear of the devils than Allah, who has the power to destroy the devils and their followers. Bible, Reverend, 21:8, Holy Quran 7:18 and 15:43. We must remember that if Islam means entire submission to the will of Allah, that and that alone is the true religion of Allah. Do not you and your religious teachers and the prophets of old teach that the only way to receive God's help or guidance is to submit to his will? Then why not Islam? Islam is the true religion and the only way to success. Chapter 37, America persecutes the Muslims. The Monroe, Louisiana City Police made a wanton, lawless, brutal, beastly attack on the peaceful religious meeting of my followers, Sunday, March 5, 1961. Afterwards, these law-breaking police officers placed false charges on my followers to cover up their law, breaking crimes and complete disregard of protection provisions in the United States Constitution. My people, the so-called American Negroes, have long been the victims of attacks by their slave masters. The enemy always goes free after doing these unjust things to our people. The history and record is filled with the facts of how the slave master fails to bring his own to trial for breaking their own laws and mistreating us and denying us justice. America tells the Negro he is an equal citizen and must fight for America, but America denies him justice. The so-called Negro has been declared an equal citizen. Where is this equal citizenship? It is only in words. It has not been in deeds. The so-called Negro does not have freedom and liberties of government that the slave master enjoys, yet America refers to him as a citizen on an equal basis with the slave master. The U.S. Constitution declares equal justice for all. This equal justice is never practiced on the so-called Negro. Since America cannot follow their own laws of the country, not to mention the laws of nature, why not separate the so-called Negro? By so doing, America would not be charged with injustice to her former slave. The so-called Negro in America has never had the opportunity to go for self. If the slave master said to his slave 100 years ago, "You are free," why didn't the slave master send the so-called Negro back to where he came from, on his own land? Then say to his people, "Here is your brother that we kidnapped 310 years ago." No, the slave master kept him caged in. If you take a wild bird and cage him, you are responsible for his well-being, treatment, and protection. But no, you killed and burned the bird. If you let the bird out of the cage, giving him the opportunity to return among his own flock, the bird is then free to fly where it pleases. The so-called Negro is here in your midst as you kidnapped and brought him here more than 400 years ago. You have now set up an invisible chain and an invisible wall of limitations about him. Under your religious and political system, you are always promising him that you will do better. You never do. Since you can't follow your own laws of justice and protection towards your servant, the so-called Negro, let him go. You then can represent America as a place of equal justice for all, or separate them here into a place to themselves. Let them live in peace, and God will let you live in peace. It was terrible the way Police Chief Kelly of Monroe broke and forced his way into a peaceful assembly of people gathered to worship Allah, the God of their forefathers, the prophets, and of their choosing. He even warned some of the followers the night before that he would break up their meeting if they attempted to hold a religious service devoted to the religion of Islam. The Monroe police, armed with weapons, broke down the doors to the mosque. They broke in on unarmed people with heavy billet clubs, brass knuckles, and drawn pistols. Among the people gathered to worship were women and children, with the wife of the minister present, who is 4 months pregnant. The police started beating on them. The police in beating did not use ordinary police sticks, but the big heavy sticks similar to the kind their ancestors used in the caves and hillsides of Europe to guard themselves at night against attacks by beasts. This police chief, Kelly, said in court, "It's in the record to be examined if they have not tried to cover it up too, that he went to Muhammad's mosque religious service because he had a suspicion that this religion was subversive from what he had read and heard. Yet he did not place this charge of subversion against my followers to bring them to court. If we are subversive and are trying to overthrow the government of America by force, let him or any other who say so carry us into the federal courts of justice and prove it." Are not Police Chief Kelly and Judge W.M. Harper acquainted with the provision of the United States Constitution, which states that shall be no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble? Is this provision only meant to apply to white people? Why continue to persecute my followers under Police Chief Kelly's false charges? If there was ever a time that we should be united regardless of religious beliefs, it is now. Why can't we unite? Is it not due to fear of not pleasing the slave masters? We must build a future for our children, not the future that the white race has built for us, which is nothing but slavery, begging, suffering, injustice, disgrace, and murder at their hands. The Negro leadership should take examples from our people in Africa and Asia, who also were deceived, robbed, and enslaved by the white race of Europe and America, under the white man's slavery teachings of Christianity. Now, Africa and Asia have awakened to the knowledge of the deceivers, and are throwing them and their damnable teaching out. Africa and Asia are now returning to the true religion of God, Allah, the same as I am teaching here and have been for 30 years, and they are on the road to success. Why do you feel proud here over what belongs to the white man? You own nothing here but the freedom to be a fool for white America. The college-trained Negro clergy politician and educator know that there is no future for them under white Christianity. They have neither a country nor a chance to build a civilization for their own people, but yet they refuse to take part with me in the sure program of God for our people, even after watching our success daily. Soon we will strip them of their followers, and then we will see if their beloved white friends will be their followers, whom they now are greatly admiring, to the destruction of their own people who are now in the mud. Why shouldn't you and I work together for the common good of our people in America? Chapter 38, Americans Persecute the Muslim, Part 2. What will be her end? And they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? The above verse is a prophecy of the lost and found people of the black nation of Islam, called Negroes by their enemies, the American white devils, who have persecuted and killed black people for the past 400 years. Some think this verse might refer to some of the Muslims who came here some years ago and were persecuted by these same devils and are now in jails here in the USA. Some of them have been held here in prison for 40 years, so Allah God told me. They also were persecuted for trying to teach our people here in America the true religion, called Islam. It can be understood clearly in these words, How long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? We all dwell on the earth, but why the earth is really used here, this verse, is to distinguish between the place where this enemy dwells and the place or country of the Muslims, called the Holy Land. Europe and America used to be called the wilderness or home of the exile demons. The so-called Negroes are the only people whose history shows have been beaten and killed daily by another people for the past 400 years. The jails of America are now filled with the poor so-called Negroes mixed with the Muslims. The so-called Negro prisoners are fast becoming converts to Islam. This is Allah's God's doings, that the scripture may be fulfilled, wherein it says, Which executeth judgment for the oppressed, which giveth food to the hungry, the Lord looseth the prisoners. 146-7, Acts 12:17, Reverend 2:10. The government of America hates her slaves, so-called Negroes, more than any of her outside enemies. She treats the so-called Negroes as if they were enemies of hers, who once made them prisoners and ruled them under a very wicked hand, which the Americans finally overcame and now takes revenge on her oppressors for their past evils done to the people of America. The poor so-called Negroes have never been able to get along with their master's white race in peace. This proves to the so-called Negroes that Allah's word is true. 12 leaders from all over the planet had a conference in the holy city Mecca, Arabia, over the lost found nation, the so-called Negroes in the wilderness, America, who must return to their own. These leaders agreed that the devils, the American white race, are disagreeable to live with in peace and have decided to remove them from the planet Earth. I will agree with the scientists, for we have tried to live with them in peace, even up to this very minute 400 years, and they yet show the world that they do not want any peace with any black people. Let us read another prophecy of America's cruel treatment to the so-called Negroes under Allah's deliverance of the enslaved so-called Negroes from her hands in these words: He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger, is persecuted, and none hindereth. That made the whole earth as a wilderness and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of his prisoners. Isa 14:6-17. Another true prophecy made by Jesus of the persecution of the Muslims. But take heed to yourselves, for they shall deliver you up to councils, and in the synagogues ye shall be beaten, and you shall be brought before rulers and kings for my sake, for a testimony against them. Mark 13:9. All so-called Negroes who accept the truth Islam, many expect such persecution and be hated for accepting the name of Allah or one of the 99 attributes of Allah. Muhammad or Mohammed is a name of Allah, God, which means praise and one who is worthy of praise and is praised much. These are the names prophesied in the Bible. Chronicles 7:14, Isa 43:7-40-26. America would like to frighten the black people away from their salvation in Islam by persecuting the believers. Allah makes the Muslims fearless and will soon put fear and trembling in the hearts of our enemies. Allah will bring upon America that which He has never brought upon people in the past, and never will be the like of such judgment anymore. America must pay for her evils done to us. There is no such thing as forgiving. Allah said to me that He would repay her for all that she has and is doing against us. Chapter 39. Robbed and spoiled. They are all of them snared in holes, and they are hid in prison houses. They are for a prey, and none delivereth for a spoil, and none saith restore. Isaiah 4:2-22. If my people's condition, or rather history in America, is not the answer to the above saying of Isaiah, then try to find the answer to it elsewhere. Our fathers were brought here as merchandise to be sold on the slave market. Some, according to the white man's own written history of that account, were brought here in physical chains to be chained again mentally for 400 years, and they are still mentally chained. They are still being beaten and killed without any law of justice for them. The white murderer's word is heard and believed by his brother murderer in the office and seat of justice. The poor black man, his master's most loyal and faithful slave, his word is not heard. They are afraid of an arresting officer taking them under arrest for fear of being mercilessly beaten, skull and face bashed in or shot outright. And the white brother says, "What is it to kill a Negro?" They are outright murderers clothed with authority to mistreat and kill my poor black people whom they have been murdering all of their lives for the past 400 years. Even when their own people black are put in authority and arrive on the scene with a gun and club, they will in many cases prove to be even worse and quicker to beat and kill their own people than the white officer. This they do to be befriended by the white people. Robbed and spoiled, they are pitiful, robbed by all, no, not even spared by their church preachers, Luke 10:32. The same robbers rob them of their own women, disgrace and corrupt them with all kinds of diseases, besides spotting up her children like the animal family. They are robbed so completely that now, after 400 years, they love the robbers of themselves and their kind. After being completely robbed of the knowledge of their God, religion, and people, they now are a prey in the hands of all first-rate robbers of all races and people. Our open enemies, the devils, are now using every trick knowledge on my people, after hearing the truth Islam, in order to take them black people to hell with them. There never was and never will be true friendship between white and black people, regardless to what you try doing to bring it about. Nothing will bring peace between the two but separation of them. Chapter 40. Separation or Death. Let us take a look at some of the disgrace that white America has committed against you, my people, and then let us look at the things they are doing now. We know that during the Civil War, Negroes went into battle with their slave masters fighting to keep their South land enslaved. They felt as though they were justified. Their slave master taught them that he, the slave master, was fighting for what was right. He still thinks the same today. Though uneducated, they slaves were like machines controlled by the white man. Now, even though the South lost that war, they continued to control the Negroes. It was through the Negro congressmen, who were elected during the Reconstruction period following the Civil War, who helped pass many of the so-called Jim Crow laws. Today, the South still use these laws against our people. Don't get angry with them, for they thought that by passing those Jim Crow laws, they were protecting their people from the white man. But time is a funny thing, for those laws reversed when the white man began to gain political office by using fear and force on the potential Negro political office seeker. He formed the 3 Ks and with that brought death to our people. You know that through fear, you can gain control over people and that control can be used to a person's advantage. As the white man gained political control, he constantly passed state laws to make the Negro, even though they were freed by the federal government, feel as though they must still depend on the white man. He set up separate schools, but only taught his history. He set up his religious churches, Methodist and Baptist, but they too were still separated. They taught the Negro their religion, Christianity, so you could look to him for dependence. Now, he is still trying to make you dependent on him by saying, I will give you civil rights. But he is still trying to make you dependent on him by saying, I will give you civil rights. But he thinks you don't realize that he promised you those rights when the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments for civil rights were passed in 1866. Well, it has been approximately 100 years now, and he still says, we will give you rights, but don't be in such a hurry. Brothers and sisters, how much longer do we have to wait another 100 years? I say, white America doesn't want to give us complete freedom, justice, and equality. They don't want to give us a piece of this country where we can have what so many of us died on the battlefields of their country, Civil War, and Europe for, a part of this country where our future kind can enjoy freedom, justice, and equality, and have an economy of our own. A country where we can worship in the true religion of our forefathers, which is Islam. Islam is the only true religion of God, Allah. It is the religion of all his prophets, from Adam to Muhammad. Teach this Islam to your brothers and friends, your children and their children's children. Build your future on freedom, justice, and equality. Build it on a part of this good earth that we can call our own. Be freedom riders on your own soil. Seek to mix with your own black kind. Keep your identity from being destroyed by the devil's white man. All they want to do is destroy your identity by offering you token integration. Chapter 41, Separation 1 say, must the poor so-called Negroes, the lost found people of the black nation from the tribe of Shabazz in America brought here by the white man in 1555, said Allah, God in person, the best knower, that our fathers and mothers were brought in chains at a great loss of life. According to history, we have served them, our slave masters, well for the past 400 years. According to the Bible's history, Abraham received the prophecy of our enslavement in a strange land and people to serve for 400 years. America was not known to the white Europeans before Columbus' discovery of the Western Hemisphere in 1492, 470 years ago. Beyond a shadow of doubt, this is the strange land and the white race, a strange people to the original Indians and our father, who were brought here in 1555, 407 years ago, did not know either the people, white and Indian, or the country. All were strangers. If this is not the answer to Abraham's prophecy, then you may tell me. Today our unrest and longing for unity and love of self and kind, and the desire for freedom, justice, and equality, a home on this earth that we can call our own, and the presence of God among us. The giving and calling us after divine names is a true sign that we are the people that Abraham saw and prophesied that would be lost and must be found. The prophecy is mentioned in many places throughout the Bible. It ends with the struggle between the symbolic lamb and beast over the delivering of the same people, the so-called Negroes in America, from a wicked, merciless murderer like a savage beast over a prey. It is a must that we be separated from our slave masters' children, who, like their fathers, hate and despise us with murder and slavery in their hearts for us day and night. It is foolish and ignorant to hear any black man or woman praising the offer of integration with a 400-year-old enemy of ours, which is inviting death and destruction of both races. Not one offer to give the once slave land to build a government and nation of their own, where they can live without fear of being beaten and killed without justice. Our enemies go in gangs to kill you. They rejoice to do you harm, this you know. They are not like you and me. Their father was a devil, who created them to be enemies of the black people, the righteous, by the spirit of their father, which was false and murderous. So are they, and today they are deceiving you under false pretenses, that they will do good by you, just to keep you here with them, to share hellfire with them. My Allah will give us heaven, if you will only believe and come follow me. We need a country to ourselves like all other nations, and we will get it soon. Separate, whereof ye can come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean, the wicked white race. And I will receive you, and will be a father unto you, and you shall be my sons and daughters, saith the Lord. Almighty 2 Shor 6, 1718. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sins, and that you receive not of her plagues. Reverend 18:4. Chapter 42, Separation or Trouble. Separation of the two, Negro and white, is the only solution to the ever-growing problem of what must be done with the Negroes. Both the so-called Negroes and their white slave masters do not seem to want to let go one another. Separation of the two races would be an act of wisdom and justice. Forced integration, which means socializing, intermarrying of the two races black and white, resulting in the eventual swallowing up of the so-called Negroes race by their white slave masters and mongrelizing the two races. This will destroy the respect of the society of both, nationally and internationally. Again, integration is against the wishes of the intelligent thinking group of both races. These want to preserve their race and the respect of their society. The government is trying to enforce this wicked and contrary law to the divine law and place of God, which will end in revolution and war, and total destruction of the wealth of America. This integration is not the wise and proper way of solving the so-called Negroes' problem in America, but is an outright deceitful and wicked plan to destroy the divine plan of Allah for the future of the so-called Negroes. Both are sure to run into trouble with Allah's chastisement, both Negroes and whites, as it is plainly hinted and written in the Bible and Holy Quran. I will gladly point it out to the disputer. The wise white scientists know it as well as me and hope to prevent it, but they are outnumbered by their wicked wise. God created two kinds of everything, so it is with man. He didn't intend for them Negro and white to mix, and has set a day of reckoning for those who willfully and knowingly break his natural law in which he has created man. It is their purpose to try and make Allah God a liar, so as to deceive the blind, deaf, and dumb so-called Negroes, as the devil deceived Adam and Eve in the Garden of Paradise, while knowing full well that they would lose their place with Allah and a peaceful home if they accepted his advice. So it will be with the so-called American Negroes, who after being offered heaven at once by Allah, accepts the wicked advice and the offer of temporary enjoyment with racial intermarrying and having sexual intercourse with a people with whom Allah is angry. He will punish both parties as he did Israel and the people whom Jehovah forbade Israel to intercourse with. Israel was punished and finally lost the goal which Jehovah had set before her, and the deceiving enemies of Israel were destroyed. I warn you to let Israel's history from the days of Moses to this day be a lesson to you. Remember, both Israel and the Christians are on the brink of a pit of fire. The best and only solution of this problem of the so-called Negroes is separation and giving them a start in a territory to themselves, regardless to the ignorant love of the slave for his master. Take a look at the foolish plan of Martin Luther King for the poor so-called Negroes and how he and his plan were criticized by Mr. James B. Kilpatrick Saturday on the television program Nation's Future. There we saw the man, Reverend King, a college man, a Christian minister and pastor, with a plan to take our poor people and himself and throw them at the mercy of an angry Negro-hating mob, to be beaten and killed for nothing, only to be accepted as whites accept white in white private-owned places, and finally allow his people to become white and to mongrelize both races. What does he think the intelligent white and black people think of his silly plan? What kind of foolish so-called Negro parents will let such foolish preachers use their babies as a test of the mob's fire? What will those children think of such parents when they grow up and see the light of truth? Mr. Kilpatrick asked Reverend King, why do you want to integrate and make your race a coffee color? With complete integration, losing your race identity. He was telling Martin Luther King in so many words that you and your race will not cause the white race to lose their identity, but the Negro will lose his. Such slander and mockery coming to the decent and intelligent so-called Negro by the ignorant love of a so-called religious leader of his people is a disgrace. Such short-sightedness by Reverend King and the NAACP for the so-called Negroes of America is making the nations of the earth, both black and white, laugh us to scorn, to see us, a race of lazy beggars, great lovers of our enemies, desire to destroy our race to become one in our enemies. Why don't Mr. King and his NAACP organization join with me on a decent plan, a plan that makes sense, and one that will make a future for our people? Ask for separation in some of this good earth that we can call our own, where we can live in peace together, away from those who do not want us. This is the plan of God, and it will bring an end to the ever-growing trouble between the two races. If the white man, some of them, wanted to colonize us in Central America back in 1867, why not a free territory today? For we will not accept colonization. It is the time of our freedom, and we will not accept anything less. The NAACP and Mr. King want the freedom of voting, and in this way they think they will be able to gain equal power in a white man's government and country. A Negro will never be the president under the stars and stripes of America. If he did, what could he do but to bow to the wishes of the owners of the stars and stripes? Let us seek some stars for our own nation and stop begging the white man for that which he has. We are not in such condition as being at the mercy of the white race, as long as we are members of the Asiatic nation. Chapter 43, Separation. We must make jobs for ourselves. Newspapers and magazines are writing and telling of our people heading the unemployment lines, being fired off their jobs and without the means of finding new gainful employment. No new jobs are being offered our people. Our people here in America number 20 million with more than 7 million eligible for gainful employment. Our number in America is the equal or exceeding many independent nations which sit in chambers of council. As a nation of people contained and suppressed in America, we must begin to think for ourselves and do the thing which is best for us. Many television news programs show our people in the relief lines and at the employment offices sitting and begging the slave master for his bread and jobs. We should be seeking something of our own. Our people will always be a nation of beggars until we get something of our own. I stated at our mass public meeting last Sunday, at the International Amphitheater, that the present administration of the government promised the so-called Negro employment. You do not have it. The so-called Negro put his faith in the promise of the present administration by pooling his votes for it. I stated at the meeting that if they had said they would give us a few states, Elijah would have voted for them. The best thing to do to solve the problem of the so-called Negro is to separate him from the white race. The work of Allah among the so-called Negro is to separate him from his slave master and give him something of his own. Also at the meeting in the International Amphitheater, I called again for the separation of the so-called Negro instead of integrating him among the white race. We should be given 2 or 3 states so we may have a land of our own. We should be given the proper instruments or tools to sustain and build up our own civilization. We should be given support to last our nation 20 years. After that time, if we are not able to go for ourselves, the slave master should take his armies and kill us. Many of the national television companies reported on their TV stations my call for the so-called Negro to be separated into a land of his own. One commentator said many so-called Negro leaders do not agree with me. Naturally, the so-called leaders are afraid to ask for anything. The white man speaking for the Negro leader is another indication of their power and control over the ones who are supposed to be guiding and benefiting our people. We cannot depend on the white race for our future, with only a job in view. We must be separated into a land of our own. Permanent employment lies in our having ownership of land. We can have lasting jobs on our own land, but not on the land of others. The jobs of the white man are the ones that he has created and built for his own people. I am very happy and thankful to Allah God for more than 8,000 people who came to our public meeting last Sunday. I am especially thankful for my faithful following, who traveled from all parts of North America for our annual Savior's Day meeting for the commemoration of the birth of our Savior, who came in the person of Master Fard Muhammad. Chapter 44, Separation or Death. What is it today that is pushing and forcing America to pass a law permitting the integration instead of the separation of black and white? Does America see her doom? They understand the time of day while you do not. They know that it is the time of the judgment of Allah to destroy the power of Satan's rule. The truth of their 6,000-year history has been revealed for the first time. This true knowledge of them is causing trembling and fear. They are today, more than in former days, reminded of the destruction of Noah's people and of the burning fall of Sodom and Gomorrah and of ancient Babylon. The great destructive force of Allah's force against his enemies is known to the American scientists. My people have not the knowledge of self, kind, God, nor the devil. They are the ones that the truth must come to. The knowledge of God and the devil points out to us the ways of escape. The devils could not tell you that they are the made enemies of the black man, the opposers of peace and righteousness, the lovers of evil and haters of good. The secret of this people of actually being the devils was not to be revealed until they had lived their time of 6,000 years, which was up in 1914. Allah revealed them on his coming. He appeared under the name of Wallace Fard Muhammad in 1930. His work included the redemption of the so-called Negroes, who are the lost and found members of the family of God. We are the true owners of the earth, which the devil was given the power to rule for the past 6,000 years. It is with praise and gratefulness that we should wait on the judgment of Allah. Once again, we will acquire the freedom to live and worship our Creator without the fear of the interference and disturbance of the devils. We should be thankful that the end of the wicked ruling power of this world is at hand. We must also realize that we too are taking part in the judgment, and we will be judged upon our acceptance of the truth. We are today given a choice. All those who choose to remain with your and God's open enemy white man, then let it be written, let it be done. Those who separate from the devils, the Caucasian race in this day, will be among the chosen of God and will inherit the new world, the kingdom of everlasting life, as we read in the Bible. As we further read in the Holy Quran, they will enter gardens beneath which rivers flow, and where the greetings therein shall be, peace. So it comes to you as warning of the time in which we now live, separation or death. It will mean death to both black and white to integrate. It will mean death to white America to refuse to give up the Negroes. The white man, I must repeat, is talking integration today instead of separation because he sees Lazarus, the Bible's symbolic character of the Negro, running to Abraham's bosom. He knows that he cannot get to a safe place to lay his head. They desire to carry as many of my people into hellfire with them as possible. Chapter 45. Separation solves the problem there. I's no doubt that we are living in the time of universal separation of black and white. Due to your ignorance of the time and the divine plans of Allah God, you probably would not like to hear or talk about it. The wise and alert people of yours have knowledge of it, but do not like to talk about it because of the love they have for the present world. The poor ignorant ones have no knowledge of it and care less as long as they are given the crumbs. It is not your will or power which is bringing it about, it is the will and power of Allah God, as foretold by his prophets from Moses to Muhammad. How many of my people, the lost found members of the Asiatic nation, the so-called Negroes, know that this is the Bible's judgment of this world and that the divine truth of Allah, God, is that which separates the righteous from the wicked? You may ask, who are the wicked? The wicked are the people who were created wicked by nature, the Caucasian race, whose limited time was 6,000 years. They have many followers of all races of earth, black, brown, yellow, and red. But this does not mean that the black nations are wicked by nature. They are righteous by nature, who are the real original people and owners of the earth. The white or Caucasian European race is known to God and his prophets as Satan, the devil, the enemy of God, and his people, the original nation. Power was given to them to rule with evil and falsehood, the darker nations, for 6,000 years. This they have done and are now 46 years over time, and they know this. It will take a few years to complete the separation, but nevertheless, the work is going on now at a very good rate of speed. Search the history of these people, black and white. The two have never been able to live in peace together. The white race is, as the Bible says of them, under the symbol of a troubled sea, Isa 5:7-20, never at peace, and is the hater of truth and righteousness. The so-called Negroes know them and their evil doings better than any people, but being without a teacher of their own kind for the past 400 years, they have become such lovers and great admirers of the devils and their evil doings that they do not want to be separated. That is why the problem is so hard to solve, though the work will be done regardless to whom or what. We number over 17 million here in America and are without a home of our one and a true friend unless it is Allah. The wicked must be punished for their wickedness poured upon us without ever being hindered. This country is large enough to separate the two, black and white. They can live here, but that would not be successful. The best solution is for everyone to go to his own people and country. We, the so-called Negroes, have both a great nation to go to and a great country. Allah God has come for our return. The native home of the white race is Europe. It is up to you and me to obey the word of Allah God, or obey our own desire. This is for the sake of saving your own flesh and blood from the destruction of this evil murderous race who is ever seeking an excuse to take your innocent lives and to cut you off from good. They are ever around and in your homes after your girls and women to make you a disgrace before God and your people. You must join onto your own kind. You may hate me now, but one day you will love me. Think it over. Why should we believe in their religion? Why should we be called by our enemies' names who enslaved our parents and will not give us equal justice, since we are free to choose our own people's names? Why should we continue to make fools of ourselves and our children, begging them to accept us as their people when we have a great nation to turn to? Chapter 46, Separation or Death, Part 2. Allah God offers us, the lost found members of the nation of Islam, the so-called Negroes, heaven at once if we would only submit and accept him. He, Allah, has already accepted us, but due to blindness mentally, fear and love for the devil slave masters and their children put in them by the white devil slave masters over 300 years ago, the lost found black people of America act like fools, though they may have college and university education. The white man's education, without the knowledge of him and your own self, will never remove your fear of the devil slave master's children, nor will it remove your desire and love to be like them, the devils. The evils done to us by these white devils are unforgivable. This the poor black man should know, but he doesn't. They must be taught this vital truth, that there can never be a judgment of this world until this 20 million lost found people hear the truth, the knowledge of self, God, and the devil. The blindness of the black clergy and politicians is pitiful. It is a shame they were made so dumb by the devils that even today, the day of our salvation, the leaders are just as blind as their followers. Both are following the devils into the lake of fire. It is very sorrowful to see and know how our people in the South and throughout America are begging the white people, their real, open enemies, the devils, to accept them into their social equality, instead of asking for the opportunity to separate from them. The heads of this disgraceful program, seeking love and friendship of the devils, are the so-called leaders, black preachers, and black politicians. The NAACP could be made a powerful organization if they would accept Islam, Allah and His Messenger. Otherwise, it will soon disintegrate. If the Negro leadership was only wise to the clock of time and the slave masters' code of laws for their black slaves, they would be as I seeking separation and a home of our own somewhere on this planet Earth which our Father created for us and not for this race of devils. The type of Christianity that the devils gave my people is taking them to hell instead of heaven. The true religion of God is Islam, and others will not be accepted. You must be freed and separated from the slave masters. The slave code of laws that the devil made for us, the lost found nation of Islam, makes us a permanent piece of property, belonging to them. No power of self-redemption or change of masters, no access to the judiciary, no honest provision for testing the claims of the enslaved to freedom, rejection of testimony of so-called Negroes regardless to the nature, true or false, or whether slaves or free. The laws are unequal, free social worship and religious instruction prohibited. The legal recognition of the Negro's rights is ignored. Submission is required of all so-called Negroes to all white devils, as written in the Slave Code of Laws, as enforced in many parts of the United States of America over Negroes and Indians, or any people of color. Adequate protection for the lost found, so-called Negroes under the devil's law is almost impossible. All white devils are brothers and friends of each other against the black people. According to the American Slave Code of Law, by William Goodell, page 301, under the above title, the Negroes may be used as breeders, prostitutes, concubines, pimps, tapsters, and attendants at the gambling table, and as subjects of medical and surgical experiments for the benefit of science. The evil and worst part of it all is the fact that the devils, white people, destroyed the Negro's love for self and turned the Negro's love for self toward his enemies. Chapter 47. The Bloodshedder. Reverend. According to the word of Allah, God, and the history of the world, since the grafting of the Caucasian race 6,000 years ago, they have caused more bloodshed than any people known to the black nation. They are born murderers made by nature to murder. The Bible and Holy Quran Sharif are full of teachings of this race of murderers. They shed the life blood of all the living, even their own. They are scientists at deceiving the black people. They deceive the very people of Paradise Bible, Genesis 3:13. They kill their own brother, Genesis 4:8. The earth testified against them, Genesis 4:10, and revealed their guilt to its maker. Thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground. Thy very soil of America is soaked with the innocent blood of my people, the so-called Negroes, shed by this race of murderers, also crieth out to its maker for the burden of the innocent blood of the righteous slain upon her. Let us take a look at the devil's creation from the teachings of the Holy Quran. And when your Lord said to the angels, I am going to place in the earth one who shall rule, the angels said, What wilt thou place in it such as shall make mischief in it and shed blood? We celebrate thy praise and extol thy holiness. Holy Quran Sharif 2:30. This devil race has and still is doing just that, making mischief and shedding blood. As the Holy Quran says, when your Lord said to the angels, Surely I am going to create a mortal of the essence of black mud fashioned in shape. Holy Quran Sharif 15:28. The essence of black mud the black nation mentioned is only symbolic, which actually means the sperm of the black nation. And they refuse to recognize the black nation as their equal, though they were made from them by one of their black scientists named Yaqub. They can never see their way in submitting to Allah, God, His religion, Islam, and His prophets. Their every cry is, beat, kill, kill the so-called Negroes. The day has arrived that Allah will return to our murderers that which they have been so happy to pour on the poor, innocent so-called Negroes, as they love to shed the poor, innocent blood of their Negro slaves, and even plan to kill me for teaching the truth. Allah will give you your own flesh and your own blood to drink like water. Your arms and your allies will not help you against Allah. Reverend 16:6. The heads and bodies of the so-called Negroes are used to test the power of your club and guns. Yet, the poor, foolish so-called Negroes admire the murderers regardless to how much they are murdered. The day is near, even at your door, when you shall receive fully what you have sown. Allah has said it. Chapter 48, the so-called Negro leadership. Part 3. It is the divine will of Almighty God Allah that we be separated. It is very foolish on the part of so-called Negro leaders to oppose it. All of your opposition will be brought to naught. I am a man who preaches justice. I am not self-made, politically made, seeking office, nor am I in a position because wealth. I am divinely sent. If Almighty God Allah were not with me, I could not get through America teaching, preaching, and doing this divine work. I want my people to be aware of this before the destruction takes place. We need a place in the sun for the future of our people, as other nations have and want. Our past leaders never asked for this. It was the same in the case of Moses. Moses demanded equal justice for Israel. The leaders opposed Moses in seeking freedom, justice, and equality for his people. If you study the foolishness of the leaders of our people, you will agree that they are doing nothing but keeping our people bound in chains of slavery as beggars. Why don't the leaders demand something for their people? Why don't you unite and say, give us some earth? The black man should be interested in himself as the white man is interested in himself. The leaders of my people should know you cannot compete with the white man, as they are the owners and producers of the land. We can't be equal with the master until we have what the master has. We can become the equal and producers by securing land for our future as other nations. Land is needed not just for the Muslims and Elijah Muhammad, but for all of our people who have had nothing for their blood and labor during the more than 400 years they have been in America. We need a place of our own to put our foot on. Why should the leaders of our people be like puppies begging for a crumb? We can't expect to make a future for 20 million people by lying around the white man's employment office. The white man today is having trouble creating and finding jobs for his own people. You will soon see he offers you nothing but a promise. Almighty God, Allah, has for you a promise of truth. No black man who has been beaten and trampled underfoot of the slave master should reject the truth when it is presented. It is time for intellectuals, preachers, and professional leaders to decide on something for the future of our people. The black man should demand something for himself. Unite with me, and in the name of Allah, we will get it. We have tried everything else, now the truth. Chapter 49. Some of this earth. Listen, brothers, regardless to your profession or trade, or you may be the poor in the mud, agree with me on common sense. We are a nation, 20 million in a nation. What do you see of good in the future for us that is being subjected to the children of our fathers' slave masters? The children of the slave masters have the same mind of their fathers, full of hatred and murder death for you and me. You are over-deprived of equal justice and opportunity. You are at the mercy of a 400-year-old open enemy who has deceived you ever since you have been in the Western Hemisphere. They have given us a picture of their bloody hatred of our black, brown, yellow, and red races. They divide, rob, rule, and hold out false promises to all. They have swollen us up with these promises. Where do you see any hope of a good future in our open enemies, for our sons and daughters? Are you depending on being a servant forever for them? Suppose the nations of earth push them out of their countries and cut off trade with this people. Will there be jobs enough for them and you, who number 20 million? Self-preservation is the first law of nature. Both nations' black and white birth rates are ever increasing. Your hope of survival is in the mercy of your enemies to provide employment for you and your children, or some soup and bread. With educated people and scientists of our own, don't you think we are a universally foolish people? We have no unity, no love of self, and no desire to be self-independent, which is due to laziness. Some of our people think the Christian religion is sufficient. In this, the enemy has been successful in deceiving you. Actually, the Christians and their religion, as you know it, will not see the hereafter. We the Muslims, under the guidance of Allah, will rule forever. We are the righteous, the wisest, and the powerful, in which whatever is in the heavens and earth obeys. Without some of this good earth that we can call our own, it would be better that we all commit suicide. Come unite with me and my God Allah, and you will get what you want, heaven in this life. My followers and I are an example of love and unity. We are the people of Allah, God, and are guided and protected by Him, to whom all praises are due forever. A Muslim can live here or there. We will never be slaves anymore. Death is better than being a permanent servant to such enemies that you and I are subjected to. Come unite with me and my God, Allah, and get some of this earth for ourselves and children, or die in the attempt. Chapter 50. The Great Deceiver. Arthur R. Gottschalk, State Senator, 8th District, Chicago, Park Forest, Ill. Wrote our National Secretary, John Ali, asking him and my followers to disavow and repudiate publicly the truth Allah has revealed to me of the Caucasian race, the truth of them being real devils and are the black nation's open enemies. A part of the letter was printed and published in the Chicago Tribune, June 15, 1962. The Senator, Gottschalk, failed to include in his letter to Secretary Ali proof or material that the truth Allah has given me of them being real devils is false. This leaves my secretary and followers helpless to deny the truth. Failed to consult messenger. I am surprised at the intelligent senator writing a letter before first making an attempt to consult me of what Allah has revealed to me. The senator's letter is a perfect insult to my followers. Without showing proof that what I am teaching is not the truth, he is asking my followers not to believe it and tell the public that they do not believe. What the senator does not like is that my followers believe that the Caucasians, the white European race, are the real devils, as Allah has said, Also, the true history and teachings of the prophets and their scripture, Bible and Holy Quran bear witness. I think the senator has attacked something that may surprise him and his race because of his intentions of making my followers disbelieve in the truth of Allah as taught me. One of the characteristics of the devil is to deceive. In last 2 paragraphs of his letter to our secretary, John Ali, Gottschalk hoped to deceive him with the following words of deception at this time when man and goodwill of all races are working hard to promote harmonious human relations and eliminate the social and economic conditions which has produced injustices. It is tragic that men like Elijah Muhammad are attempting to tear down their good work and accentuate racial tension and misunderstanding. Mr. Gottschalk, we are not your slaves anymore, therefore, do not misunderstand us. We care very little about you or anyone or races who would think, after the knowledge of you, that a promise of promoting harmonious human relations, social equality with you, will solve our problem. You are mistaken. We want nothing less than freedom to build our one economy and society, and on some of this earth that we can call our own. We want to be independent as you and other nations are to do what we think is best for our own selves. What kind of future can you prepare for us other than subject slaves to you and your kind? I am not attempting to tear down anything good, for I have not found anything of good that you or your kind have set up to tear down that was good for my people. Allah and I are the only ones I know who are setting up any good work for our people, I think. Let us enjoy freedom. Since our government declares us to be free, why not leave us to go and enjoy this freedom to ourselves on some of this earth that we can call our own? The language used in your letter is that of a deceiver, who knows that he has laid hands upon a great value and hopes to deceive him to believe that which he has been given or found is of no value, and what you have is the best. The entire 20 or more million of my people here should learn a lesson from your letter, and be careful of you and your kind erupted promises of social equality without some of this earth we can call our own. Your dogs enjoy honor in your society. They are seen eating from the table and riding in the same seat in some of your best transportation. We do no desire any such place and level with all the evil you have done to us for the past 400 years, and you continue to mistreat us. In for great surprise, do you think we will be satisfied to settle with less than some of this earth we can call our own? I think you are in for a great surprise. The senator is outright asking my followers to recant and make it publicly known that they disbelieve in the truth Allah has revealed to me in the closing line of his letter to Secretary, all in the following words. I call upon you, John Ali, as National Secretary of your organization, to disavow and repudiate publicly all of the above statements that the Caucasian race is a race of devils, says Allah to me by leader Elijah Muhammad. Failure to do so would be a clear admission that the statements of Elijah Muhammad accurately represent the policy of your organization, which sponsors and operates the University of Islam. For nearly 32 years, the students of our school have been in the knowledge of you, and good reason of being at peace in your midst. This comes from having the knowledge of you. If you fear this true knowledge of yourself will cause your mistreated, once slaves to hate you, then your argument is with Almighty Allah who has revealed it. It is surely not with Brother John Ali and my followers, for you will not be able to give up the truth of you, their God Allah, and their leader and teacher. The truth is that which is opposed to falsehood, and the father of falsehood, the devil. The devil's white race are opposed to truth, and the author of truth, the divine supreme being. It is plain truth only that is necessary to resurrect the mentally dead black nation. God in the person of Master Fard W.D. Muhammad, the long-expected Messiah, the Muslims' Mahdi Allah God in person, has brought us this plain truth. The truth could not have come to us any sooner. It had to come from the mouth of Allah God in person. He could not have brought it to us before this time. He had to wait. He had to wait until the time given falsehood to rule had expired. Being afraid of the truth because it is not in favor of the enemy of truth is absolutely inviting death and the eternal anger of Allah God Almighty, whose purpose in coming is to rid the black nation once and for all of our chief enemy, the devil, the white race. This fear of the devils was put into our parents when they were babies. Fear is even kept in us today by their beating and killing of our people without a cause. Fear is the real enemy that now stands between you and your salvation. The white man's strongest weapon, which is fear, is keeping us divided. Fear is the enemy that keeps us divided and from becoming an independent people. It is at the height of ignorance for any educated black man or nation to seek the continued dependence upon the enemy for their future, especially when the enemy has no future for self. John 8:32 says, "Ye shall know the truth." Negroes reared by foes. This verse is directed to the so-called Negroes, who were reared by their enemies. Our enemies have never taught us the truth, because the truth is in the black man's favor. The truth will free the so-called Negroes from the fear of the enemy's devils, and the truth will destroy the so-called Negroes' love and worship of the devils as it has done for my followers and me. Allah is truth. His religion, Islam, is truth. White America is not losing time in trying to prevent the so-called Negroes from accepting it. Truth, Islam. They are so afraid the so-called Negroes are going over to Islam that they are even disgracing themselves in their efforts to oppose the truth. They are now even willing to have intermarriages between the so-called Negroes and white, just to prevent the so-called Negroes from accepting the truth, Islam. As some of the devils have said, the best way to beat Muhammad is to make democracy work. Tribe of Shabazz. Allah is the greatest. It is incumbent upon Allah, God, to awaken and teach the truth to the mentally dead, lost and found members of the black nation from the tribe of Shabazz, so-called Negroes. Hell was not prepared for any black person. It was prepared for the devil's white race. This the white race knows. This is why they desire to take every one of you to their doom with them. No pro-white so-called Negro leadership will work for the good of black people, regardless to what. To speak for the truth, you need a fearless Muslim leader who knows people, their origin and destiny. The so-called Negroes need the unity of all darker people the same as white people seek, and have the unity of one another, especially against the non-whites. The so-called Negroes have millions of members, the Indians, and all darker Latin Americans of their own nations. But the so-called Negroes need certain qualification that is very much necessary for them to be respected by any member of their nation. They would even be respected by their enemies if they had self-respect. Others are unable to respect you. Truth shall make you free. When Jesus prophesied, the truth shall make you free, he did not tell what the truth was that would make us free. He refused to go into details even after being questioned by the devils who were claiming kinship to Abraham. Later admitted he could not guide them into all the truth. But Jesus prophesied that the Father Allah would send one in his name who would teach and guide the people into all truth. This one would only say that which he heard the Father say, getting it directly from the mouth of God. This truth Jesus was referring to is the knowledge of God, the devil, and the end of one and the rise of another. This truth Allah, God, has now revealed, and it is being preached first to the so-called Negroes and then throughout the world of the black nation. The real danger which now confronts and will destroy the future of the so-called Negroes is the great temptation which the white Christian race is now putting on just for the purpose of trapping the so-called Negroes. That is their parading their bold, half-nude girls and women before the public, along with some of the most filthy and indecent acts that is known to man. They were even more decent when they were savages. Then they did try to hide their nakedness with the skin of beasts. This is the truth. Believe it or leave it. Chapter 51. Thousands turned back failed to hear Muhammad. Los Angeles, April 13, concluding a series of 3 of the most successful meetings. Held during the past 7 months, Mr. Elijah Muhammad cut short his visit to Los Angeles and headed for Chicago to adjust pressing problems this morning. Each of the 3 meetings was a turnaway crowd. The meetings were held at People's Independent Church of Christ, 18th and Paloma, which has a capacity of 1,000 seating, turned away more than 3,000 at each meeting. Muhammad's power to draw Negroes, even on Monday evenings, remains a mystery to those who are trying to analyze his popularity. Speaking to a standing audience, Mr. Muhammad, who refers to his speaking as teaching, taught on the history of the creation of the white man. He told his audience that if the Negro knew and understood who the white man really is, that he would not be clamoring for a seat beside him in restaurants. On the same token, he said, if Africans were killing white people in Africa, the white man in America would kill Negroes here in revenge. Thus, he said the sit-in strikes in the South is one of the most disastrous activities Negroes have ever engaged in their 400-year history in America. Thus, he continued, their activities are the sit-in strike, marks the Negroes as the most stupid group on earth. On the question of economics, he said the Negro has the power to acquire the same respect and status as other people by uniting and pooling their wealth. He said the Negro's money is put into white banks and savings and loan associations, loaned to white people to build businesses to discriminate against them. This activity marks the Negro as stupid. These same banks will not make a loan to Negroes. Yet the banks, many located in Negro communities, use the Negro's money and openly fight them. The bankers, he said, reject Negro loan applications, thus driving the Negro businessman into the hands of Shylocks. He urges Negroes to pool their wealth and build banks. The wealth of the Negro American exceeds $15 billion, and 85% of that money is tied up into monstrous churches. This money should be used to build factories. During this period, unemployment, the majority of unemployed workers are Negroes. We cannot expect a white man to discharge white people and give employment to us. We have to make an effort to help ourselves. In this period of unemployment and starvation, the Negro masses throughout the country should make a demand upon the ministers that they use this wealth to make employment for them. In demanding this, the members of the various churches will find that the deed and titles to these million-dollar churches are in the names of the ministers and their wives and their families. In comparing Islam with Christianity, Mr. Muhammad used both the Bible and the Holy Quran, comparing the scriptures as written by man to the words spoken by Allah. For instance, one passage of scripture stated, "And they said that Jesus went that way, but the Quran stated that I am Allah thy God." He pointed out that the Quran stated fully the word of God and not the sayings of men as stated in the Christian Bible. Muhammad also pointed out that Jesus was a member of the dark race, proving this fact by stating that there were no cameras in that day to take the picture of Jesus and asking the question, how then do we know that this is the true picture of Jesus as presented to us today? Jesus, he continued, was a Muslim, and Christianity is a white man's religion created to enslave the black, brown, and red people all over the world. The white man never had a God and never will. Mr. Muhammad thanked his followers and those attending the meeting for the courtesy extended to him during his 4-day stay in Los Angeles. He thanked those who made it possible for him to hold the meeting in this beautiful church, and said he hoped to return to Los Angeles again very soon. Mr. John X., minister of Muhammad's Temple of Islam in Los Angeles, said that he planned to purchase the People's Independent Church of Christ and to turn it into a temple. The church is for sale. Chapter 52, The Truth, Part 5. If there ever lived on this planet Earth a people who deserved a part of it that they could call their own, it is you and me, the lost-found members of the Asiatic nation from the tribe of Shabazz. Today, Allah God offers you and me a chance to become the owners of some of His earth if we only submit to Him. I have submitted myself to Him, and I am the first of the lost found to submit to Him. Will you also submit to Him? We must have some of this earth for a home we can call our own as other nations. 20 million in U.S., 20 million of us here in America at the present time depend only on the white man for a job to survive. We are increasing in population daily. Do you ever take time to think for a moment that 20 million non-whites living and increasing in population among more than 125 million whites, whose parents our parents were slaves to? We have become a nation in a nation, and one of us must live separate from the other in order to survive. The present condition of the white race engulfs them in a universal war that will force them to look out for themselves only. Angry at each other, all the nations are angry with each other, and Allah is angry with them. What kind of future do we have in such a mad world who has carved it up among themselves but to submit to Allah God for a home? He, Allah, has said to me that He will set us in heaven at once if we would only submit to Him. Do you not hear and read how the white race is killing your own black people in Africa by the tens and hundreds of thousands? They are killing them for no cause whatsoever, but to rule and rob them of their country's natural resources, and to enslave them with their false Christianity for cheap labor, just as they did our fathers here, and still have you in the status of a free slave with no hope but a job or the soup line. Yet many of you glorify this same universal enemy enough to even integrate with them. Paid for our home, we have paid well for a home on this soil with 400 years of shame. We have been disgraced, robbed of the knowledge of self and kind. We have sweated and bled for white America's riches, self-independence, security of property and lives. Will you not wake up and stand up to God and the nations of the earth like a man of your place and home on a part of this earth that you can call your own? Do you feel proud representing yourselves under the white slave makers' names and claiming what is theirs to be yours or partly yours? We need and must have something of our own, a home. Get out and farm. Raise the foods and clothes that you and your people must have. Get the earth and build your own civilization of freedom, justice, and equality. You are the real Lazarus, charmed by the riches of the slave masters and are too lazy to go for self. Some of you so-called leaders are well educated in the know-how, but would rather give your educational values back to your white teachers in their factories, plants, laboratories, and offices, even to the extent of teaching their children. You even refer to the wealth and to this country of America as being our wealth, our country, or we, while at the same time you are begging for civil rights which they will never give you. Chapter 53, The Truth. Often I am asked, 1. How can we live separately from the white people in the same country? 2. How can we be independent of them? 3. Would the white American agree to a separate territory for us in some suitable area where we could go for self and live alone in peace? 4. Would we get along in peace with each other? The first question is very easy to answer. The black and white people, according to history, have always lived separately from each other. They were originally separated by God, and the law of God forbids their intermixing or intermarrying. The earth was originally inhabited by the black man. Families to themselves later on as color brown, yellow, red began among them by the original scientists. Says the word of Allah to me, they became families to themselves, and from families to tribes. The term used today is races or nations. Most of the black remained in the east along and below the equator of the earth. The white race, after their creation 6,000 years ago, was given the part of earth today that is called Europe. It is this race of people who actually started the sin of intermixing the two strange bloods that is forbidden by God. Just as they have disregarded all divine laws of Allah God, they even seem to change the very natural laws of man in which he is made. They first mixed with the original black Arabs. Then, as they traveled over the earth, for the past near 500 years, they mixed with brown, yellow, and red races. They captured the blacks and made slaves of them. For the past 400 years, they have used them so-called Negroes for experimental purposes, and even use them now as one uses his tool. How independence is born. The second question, how can we be independent of the white race? Answer, when a people is smart enough to look and dig the earth and get what she produces, her secret treasures hidden under the surface, along with her water, air, and sunshine, that people can be self-supporting as other smart nations are, who are independent of each other. Some may have in their part of the earth that which the other does not have. Then comes the exchange of resource to others, through peaceful means of trade and exchange of goods with each nation. Only disagreement and war and fighting between each other would prevent such necessary union of nations to get that from the other nations that she does not produce. A new nation should not isolate itself from national or international trade. However, this does not mean mixing blood with each other. The borders of a black and white separate state should be as strict as any nation's borders, protected by passports and visas for all people. I think the so-called Negroes and white Americans should have such restrictions and laws between them to maintain peace. Intelligent will agree. The third question, would white America agree to a separate territory for us, the black, once slaves of the American? Answer, I do believe the intelligent minds of America would agree to the separation of us into some place other than trying to continue making us live with them with the same respect and justice that they enjoy, not to mention the mixing of bloods and the complete care of us. If they see you and me in honest togetherness on some of this earth that we can call our own, even with some help as Egypt did for Israel on Israel's departure, they will respect us. The fourth question, would we get along in peace if we were put together to live together? Answer, I know we would if our national religion would be Islam. This I am proving to you daily. It's God and Islam. See how peacefully my followers and I get along together? It is God and the religion of Islam who inspires love, unity, and peace in the hearts and actions of every true believer. Once you accept Islam, you do not even like to dispute and quarrel with the brothers or sisters. Allah will soon put Islam in the hearts of all the lost-found members of the tribe of Shabazz. Of course, there is the East continent of Asia and Africa, who will welcome every lost-found Muslim in America to share with them, if others fall. It is a must that we be separated into some part of this earth that we can call our own. Next, do we have the qualified men and women among the black people of America to run a government for self? Chapter 54, The Truth. The sower of the truth is the messenger or apostle of Allah God, but whose heart is fertile enough to germinate the truth? In the same chapter 4:23, it says, If any man have ears to hear, let him hear. This was the great trouble Noah had with his people. They would not lend their ears to hear the truth, and were therefore drowned by a flood of water. Lot had the same trouble with his people. They just would not listen to the truth. It is the same today, as it was in the past. The people just will not hear the truth. Supremely exalted then is Allah, the King, the Truth, Holy Quran 2011:4, author of the truth. Allah is the author of the truth. The heavens and the earth bear witness that Allah is the author of truth. Regardless to how small or great, all life bears witness to the truth. Since the heavens and the earth bear witness to the truth of the existence of its creator, falsehood cannot hope to gain a permanent place in the creation of truth. Darkness cannot find a permanent place because of forever being chased by light. So it is with the devils, the fathers of falsehood. They now seek a hiding place somewhere in the Creator's creation of truth, the universe, which cannot now be done. Falsehood vanishes in the light of truth as darkness vanishes before light. The light of truth. Allah is the light of truth in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, the long-expected Mahdi or Messiah. His appearance in the world of falsehood is like that of the sunrise against the night of darkness. We have lived in a night of falsehood for 6,000 years under the rule of Satan, the white race. This evil false rule must be removed by Allah to allow the real nation of truth to rule as they did before the night of falsehood. This is the time the change is being made. Today, the sun of truth is casting her rays upon the dark western horizon. Our unity demanded we, the darker people of the Western Hemisphere, should unite and pull off our night garments and dress ourselves for today. Our unity is demanded. The original settlers, the Indians of this Western Hemisphere, and the Latin or Central American must unite and accept their own. The earth was created by the black man, for the black man, and this is universally known by all scholars and scientists of religion. The earth has been divided between four families, black, brown, red, and yellow, for many thousands of years. The fifth family, the white race, was grafted in to be tried at ruling us, the black nation. However, they have proven to be unworthy of keeping the peace and justice among us, the aboriginals. Instead of peace, love, and brotherhood, they have been successful in bringing about hell, dissatisfaction, and have made enemies between brother and brother, divided us one against the other. Whites made mischief. They have made mischief and caused bloodshed throughout the nations of earth. Now the nations that love peace and brotherhood are uniting behind our God of peace and justice to bring about the removal of this troublemaker, whom we have learned through experience is disagreeable to live with in peace. We should not hesitate to unite and take our place in our own. What future do the so-called Negroes have under their 400-year-old enemies? Of all people, should not they unite and do something for self and stop depending on their open enemies for existence? Chapter 55. The truth, O Apostle. Deliver what has been revealed to you from your Lord, and if you do it not, then you have not delivered his message, and Allah will protect you from the people. Surely Allah will not guide the unbelieving people. Holy Quran 5:67. When Allah God decided to reveal his truth and bring an end to falsehood, that truth must be delivered regardless of the cost. The messenger of truth should not fear to deliver it. If that truth is from Allah, he will be the protector of it as well as the protector of the messenger who delivers it truth. A true messenger of Allah never fears to deliver the message of Allah, nor does he ever fail to deliver it, even though most of them messengers and their followers suffered severe persecutions and even death, yet the message of Allah was delivered. The awakening of the Arabs nearly 1400 years ago to the ancient truth Islam, not a new truth of Allah by Muhammad and his work, was typical of what will be done today. He was opposed by the Arabs for a while. Although the Arab nation and their country are the birthplace of the great prophets and scriptures, and from there, prophets are sent throughout the world from the time of Adam until today, the Arab history cannot be compared with the history of the so-called Negroes who have never had a divine prophet nor a scripture. According to the past histories of the major prophets, one comes 2,000 years until the end of the world of sin. Moses came exactly 2,000 years after Jacob, the god and maker of the evil Caucasian race. Jesus came 2,000 years after Moses, and the last prophet came 2,000 years after Jesus, fulfilling much of the histories of the prophets before him, especially Moses, David, Jesus, and Muhammad. The man Allah God raised up from among the American so-called Negroes in the West will unite his people to Islam with the guidance of Allah, with a book of scripture for his people prepared and written by the fingers of Allah God. His teachings will be called a new Islam and will be opposed by many who would not like a change from the old to a higher knowledge of the divine. The present Holy Quran Sharif leads us right up to the door of that final book for our future, though not admitting us in. Yet we are able to get a glance of some things. The devil white race watches the believers, and when he finds one showing any sign of weakness, he helps him to become weaker in the faith. Islam is the greatest unifying force on the planet Earth. Islam is a religion that is backed by the power of its author, Allah, to whom be praised forever. Islam could save the world from its destructive fall, but the world has practiced evil for so long that she would rather go to her doom than to turn and do righteousness. Look at the silly things the world is doing, working like mad to destroy each other. For what? Is not there enough earth for every one of us? Yes, there is enough if we would be satisfied with our share and not seek to rob the other man of his share. Billions upon billions of dollars are being spent for the purpose of destroying humanity from the face of the earth, which is nothing but a waste of money that could be spent for the happiness of the nations and not for their death. The wicked will be the losers. Chapter 56. The truth submit to Allah. Holy Quran 2:12. The power of all the religions of the world, other than Islam, is losing their attraction and power on the people of earth. Why? Number one, because they are too proud to submit to God according to the word of Allah God to me. It was not possible for the world to submit and believe in the religion of Islam before the end of the rule and power of the devils, the white race. The white race devils was permitted to rule Genesis 1:26 us not according to justice and righteousness, but by evil and falsehood. They were made wise enough by their father Jacob to deceive us in making falsehood to appear to be true, until the time and appearance of the author of truth, Allah, and justice. They, the white race, make evil appear to be very attractive, Genesis 3:6, and in this way they capture many of the righteousness, for unlike attracts. Murderers by nature they are murderers and liars. Genesis 4:8, John 8:44, therefore they could not believe. John 8:37-40. In a true religion like Islam, which means man's entire submission to the will of Allah God. Take a second look into the above said. If the devils were given the power to be the God of this world for a time 6,000 years, how could they by nature teach us to submit to Allah and do the will of a God of truth, freedom, justice, and equality? Therefore, the people under a wicked ruler, the devil of the world, went astray from the true God and true religion. They made for themselves all kinds of false gods and religions and bowed down and worshipped them. The time now is the time of the God of truth and justice to rule. The black nations are awakening to the knowledge of the time of our God Allah, and are now seeking Him and His true religion called Islam, to be united and live in peace together as they were before the creation of the white race devil. Negro progress. Slow Islam was offered to this world by the prophets of Almighty Allah, God. See and read both the Bible and Holy Quran, but was unable to make their people believe in it. Entire submission to the will of Allah God. Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad failed in their efforts to get this world to submit to the will of Allah God, not to mention the many other lesser prophets who spent their lifetime and efforts trying to convert the world to submit to the will of Allah God. Even today, due to the poison effect of the teachings of falsehood, the progress of truth and justice among the so-called Negroes is very slow to what it would be if there was no opposition by the enemy's devils. There are some white people better than others, but they are not to be mistaken for the righteous because they are not as wicked as others of their kind. One reason why the so-called Negroes reject Islam, because they don't know what it actually means, which is only entire submission to the will of Allah God. As today, the people have submitted to do the will of the devils, not the will of the God of truth and justice Allah. Chapter 57. The Truth Islam. The religion of Islam is now for the first time being offered to us, the so-called Negroes, the lost found, and the lost members of the chosen nation by Allah God in person, Muslim Shriners. Before the coming of Allah, Islam was sold to the so-called Negroes in a secret order or society called the Masons. This order is made up of 33 degrees, and it is sold by degrees. If a member is eligible and able to pay for all the degrees, he may do so, but only those who take the 33rd are called Muslim Shriners. Though real Islam is not practiced in this secret order, it is made a farce. The first three degrees are the base of the whole. They are full of significance pertaining to the robbery and murder of a valuable member of a significant temple and a friend of the wisest king that ever lives. Islam, free. You do not have to buy Islam. It is free. Islam is the salvation of the black nation and the only way out for the so-called American Negroes. Islam means submission to the will of Allah God. What greater religion than a religion that demands us to submit to the will of Almighty God Allah? The number one principle of belief in Islam is the belief in one God. Is not this the teachings of the prophets of old, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad? Unity, sincere unity, comes from the love of one another, and agreement is assured. The lack of unity is the real cause of the existing dissension among the so-called Negroes. There is no love for one another, and this lack of love makes it impossible to unite and agree with each other. Allah, in the person of Master W.F. Muhammad, God in person, brought the key to our unity by giving us the knowledge of self and others. This knowledge of self has made us to love self and our kind, not the evil. It is against the law of nature for us to love strange flesh as we love self and kind. Unlike is repelled by alike. Through unlike may well attract. But the law of nature will rebel, though unlike may well attract against it because of the lack of a likeness. Perfect unity is obtained then from a likeness and not from unlike. Every kind of life we see in this world is different, everyone unlike, but yet unity is at work among only the alike. We see that the world of mankind is intelligent enough to recognize their own likeness and repel unlikeness. Therefore they live on a part of this earth alone to themselves, black, brown, yellow, red, and white. But my poor people who like unlike and hate alike because they have no knowledge of self or kind, not to mention other than self. They are therefore called blind, deaf, and dumb, and this is true even if it is offensive and disgraceful to be called such names. Love and unity cannot be enjoyed without the knowledge of self and kind. The so-called Negroes should attend the meetings of the Muslims to learn about self and kind as revealed to us by Allah, to whom be praised forever, who came in the person of Master W.F. Muhammad, the hoped-for and long-awaited for the last 2,000 years, the great Mahdi, the finder of us, the lost and the last members of the divine nation of righteousness, the great restorer of the kingdom of Islam. Every one of us who accepts entire submission to the will of Allah, Allah as our God and His religion Islam, enjoys peace of mind, contentment, and has no fear or grief. This religion, Islam, is actually powered by Allah, God, and this power and the great wisdom, the secret of God, and the universe that we live in, automatically invites us. One of the main purposes of his coming is to unite the lost and found members of the great Asiatic nation of Islam. His supreme wisdom given to the lost found nation of Islam, as he called us, will put us on top of civilization as Yaqub's supreme wisdom and knowledge on how to trick the righteous into doing evil, just the opposite of right did for his people, the white race. The great Mahdi will make a nation from the product of righteousness and teach them a supreme knowledge of the God of righteousness that has never been taught since the creation of the universe. He will make his people rule forever, as that wisdom is the utmost of divine knowledge, and as I have saith, it is so powerful that it automatically unites us. Chapter 58. A united black nation. Why not a united 20 million black people of America? There is a United Nations headed by America and England, which includes nearly all races and colors. There is also a United Arab Republic. 20 million black people of America are called after the names of their slave masters. This means that they are still the property of white America, thus making impossible for them to become a free and independent people of white America. If they, the so-called Negroes, would unite it and throw off the white man's names, which have no divine meanings, for they, the devils, are not the people of the God of righteousness, Isa 6:3-1964 3.5, and the slavery teachings of the white man's religion, Christianity, they, in the name of Allah and the religion Islam, could become one of the greatest and mightiest nations on the earth. Let the disbelievers ask me to prove it. We must unite and qualify for self-independence, for Allah's earth is vast. America killed off the original owners, the Indians, and took this country for their home. We must have some of this earth that we can call our own. Allah is with us. We must learn trades and professions of all kinds and build our own nation, which consists of 20 million so-called Negroes. There is no hope of a future for us in the white race, because they have no future for themselves. This you must know. Unity is the result of love and respect of one's own and others. We cannot expect love, unity, and respect from others until we have these for ourselves. We should be ashamed of ourselves to ever want to integrate or mix bloods with the very enemies and murderers of our people. They are born haters and despisers of the black nation. They are also the robbers and spoilers of our nation. Why not a united American black people, the so-called Negroes? We have a world of people of our kind who would not hesitate to show us that they are our sincere brothers and sisters if we only would throw off the chains and yoke of the white man's slavery. You should drop their names and get out of their religion. Stop worshiping them, white man, and worship Allah, God, and his true religion, Islam. Islam means entire submission to the will of Allah and the entrance into his peace. There you will not fear nor shall you grieve. Seek for yourself and kind that which the white race seeks: independence, freedom, justice, equality, and a free country for their own kind. A dependent and begging people cannot hope for anything but the worst. This world is on her way out and another one is coming in. The new world of Islam, peace and righteousness, under the rulership of Allah and the Muslims. Let us buy farmland where we can grow our food and sell it at a price that our poor people are able to pay. We should produce our own needs, unite as one man, and sacrifice everything to accomplish this unity. Chapter 59. We must be ourselves. We are faced with the choice of accepting self or other than self. The absence of love for self makes us to love other than self. Hatred of self keeps us fighting and opposing self. We must do something for self and stop working against each other for the joy of our enemies. We must prepare for tomorrow. We cannot depend on the white race to continue to farm and grow food, cotton and wool to clothe us. We have to get rid of thinking like a child. We have to learn to think and do like men of all other nations and look after our own needs. We must unite and work together in order to make it easy for all. We must go to school and try to get a college and university education. We must learn engineering of all kinds, teaching, chemistry, medicine, astronomy, and other sciences such as professions, trades, navigation, etc. learn to do for self and nation what other civilized nations are doing for them. Too long we have been lazy. Think in the way of being self-independent. Unite and build a better black nation, worthy of its name, the first. Speak well for self and kind. Never join in making fun of your people with non-members of your people. Never seek to take advantage of your own black brother or sister. Be true to self and other than your own kind. Defend each other against danger to lives and property of your own. Be clean internal as well as external. Stop using tobacco in any form. Stop eating the filthy swine pick. Stop being loud in the public and in secret. Stop using filthy language in public and in secret. Stop using drugs and whiskey. Stop trying to mix with other than your own kind. Stop going to church and go to the Mosque of Islam, where you will be loved and respected and protected by the God of Islam and your nation. be yourself and fear Allah alone. Do not think the white man is being blessed in not asking you to take part in the Third World War or final war of the Western world's civilization. Join onto your own kind and be yourself. Chapter 60. We must have some earth. What good is it to serve a master or God if that master or God will not give you a home on his earth that you can call your own? There are 255,000 square miles of land out of water, of a total of 196,940,000 square miles that make up our planet, and 29 million square miles of producing land. How many square miles of this good earth do we, the so-called American Negroes, own here in America? Yet, we seek to be recognized as the equal of our slave masters' children with nothing but a job that the masters allow us to do for them when we are wanted. Is not this a shame for us whom the slave masters claimed that they freed nearly 100 years ago to go for ourselves? We have never tried going for self. The white man drives us and forces us to do something for himself and his kind, and yet we have made ourselves appear to the world of mankind to be the laziest cowards, self-divided, shameful, disgraceful beggars of white people on the earth. Do not we ever get tired of being looked upon as fools without a home? Everyone has some of this earth that they call their own. If not, they are doing everything within their power to own some of it. For the past 100 years of freedom so-called, we have given the same slave masters our labor and our lives to help build them a home and keep it secure for them, though the white slave masters are responsible for our blindness. But not after the light comes to us. We need re-education. The white man's education is helpful, but there is not enough light shown in it for the so-called Negroes to find the way to self. They beat and kill you, starve you, drive and kick you out of their presence and homes, yet you love and admire them, and hate and dislike yourselves, and will not unite to find a home for self and children. You are a satisfied people with nothing. We must have some of this earth that we can call our own. We have lost 400 years making our slave masters' children rich, powerful, and independent, and are charmed by their riches as the symbolic parable of Lazarus and the rich man, in that you will not go after something for self. No. 1. We are where we do not belong, and by the divine prophet's prophecy concerning us, there is not permanent home for us in this part of our planet, but promised us a permanent home among our own people. Would not you like to live in peace and be recognized and treated as brother citizens by your own people in your own country, than to be unrecognized and treated like a dog by other than your own kind and country? Allah, God, wants to give you, the so-called Negroes, the best and most permanent home the earth has to offer. The white man came into possession of this part of our planet by blood and built up blood and established himself by evil hab. 2:12, and now must pay the price set by Allah God through the mouth of his prophets. We must have some of this earth that we can call our own for a permanent home. Come, follow me, and you will get it. For this cause is the base of Allah God's coming. Do not let this world of our enemies deceive you. Chapter 61. What the so-called Negro must do. All over the earth today, we see men coming into unity, oneness, or solidarity. The European nations are in a bond or pact referred to as WATO or the Warsaw Pact. They are attempting to establish a European common market. In Africa, there is the Organization of Arab States, and much work is going on toward uniting all the people of Africa. In the United Nations, those nations which have something in common or identical people, traits, culture, or borders are in groups or blocks. Men everywhere are seeking unity among themselves. Every race of people want unity their own kind first, except my people, the so-called Negro in America. Our condition and lack of love for ourselves must be attributed to the slave master. He has been our teacher until the coming of Almighty God Allah. The slave master has robbed my people of their God, religion, name, language, and culture. They are now deaf, dumb, and blind to the knowledge of self. The worst kind of crime has been committed against us, for we were robbed of our desire to even want to think and do for self. We are often pictured by the slave master as a lazy and trifling people who are without thoughts of advancement. I say, this is a condition which the slave master very cleverly wanted and created within and among the so-called Negro. Robert H. Kinzer and Edward Sagarin, in their book The Negro in American Business, page 81, state that the history of America would be different. Today, if the slaves, freed from bondage, had been given, in addition to the 3 amendments to the Constitution, the famous 40 acres and a mule, the slaves instead started not only without land and the money to purchase it, but with few avenues open to earn and save such money. Ownership of producing land is a prime and necessary part of freedom. A people cannot exist freely without land, and the so-called Negro in land ownership, or limiting the areas in which such purchases or even rentals could be made. Are you not left restricted to the poorer sections the slave master is abandoning throughout America? Again, Mr. Kinzer and Mr. Sagarin give a hint in their book of the great psychological strategy of the slave master on his slave. That is the original brainwash. On page 84, the authors state that the land sold to the slave was of poor quality and in an inferior location. They state, the so-called Negro faced pressure against his becoming a farm owner and pressure from the white community that he remain a tenant. We encountered credit difficulties, hardships of repayment of loans, and hardship with white executives from whom the loans must be asked. All of this is part of the clever plan to discourage my people from wanting to own producing land for themselves and to cause a great dislike within them for having anything to do with tilling, cultivating, extracting, and producing for themselves as other free and independent people. It is a shame. This shows you and me what white America is to us, and just why we have not been able to do anything worthwhile for self. They want us to be helpless so they can mistreat us as always. We must come together and unite. ITIS time. I think it is a disgrace for us to be satisfied with only a servant's part. We should and must, as other people, want for ourselves what other civilized nations have. Let us do for ourselves that which we are begging the slave master to do for us. Do not be fooled by the false promises of civil rights and the softening of their language. It is offered to you now to keep you from becoming free of their evil plans of depriving you of the offer made to us by Allah. If we would submit to Him, He will set us in heaven at once. It is only justice that we be given land and provisions for a start so we may do for ourselves. This is what other new emerging nations are given. We want good productive land, not earth that is scorched, but land that would produce crops and hold foundations for structures. Let us make this clear. I am not begging, for if it pleases Allah, He will give us a home and I am with Him. Today, according to Allah's God's word, we are living in a time of the great separation of the black and the whites. The prophesied 400 years of slavery, which the so-called Negroes would serve white people, ended in 1955. The so-called Negroes must return to their own. Nothing else will solve their problem. The divine power is working and will continue to work in favor of the so-called Negroes' return to their own. The separation would be a blessing for both sides. It was the only solution according to the Bible for Israel and the Egyptians. It will prove to be the only solution for America and her slaves. Chapter 62. What is Un-American? According to the dictionary's definition of Un-American, it means one that is not American, not characteristic of or proper to America, foreign or opposed to the American. Character, usages, standards, etc. As you know, any or all Negroes that seek freedom, justice, and equality is or are charged or accused of being un-American. They are accused with seeking to overthrow the government of America by force. We Muslims prohibit the carrying of arms, but yet we are accused of planning to overthrow the government by force. No Negro leader has been successful in helping his people to freedom, justice, and equality that was not opposed by both his own people and the merciless, wicked white Americans, also by those poison intellectual so-called Negroes who love and worship the devils and hate self and kind. Today, the Americans hope to unite all educated so-called Negroes, along with their already poisoned Negro Christian preachers, against us the Muslims that preach freedom, justice, and equality for the black nation. They are united against my followers and won. Thanks be to Allah, you are a little late to win. Allah God knew the tricks that you would use to try deceiving the black man before you were created. Un-American, I wish to prove, according to the English language in this article, that every so-called Negro, Indian, and all non-white Europeans are un-American, according to the dictionary's definition of an American. An American, according to the dictionary, is a citizen of the United States or of the earlier British colonies, one not belonging to one of the aboriginal races. 1. We belong to the aboriginal nation of the earth. The white or European race is not aboriginal. 2. Native or inhabitant of the Western Hemisphere. The above explanation makes it clear that we are not members of the white Europeans, nor descendants of that race. We are the aboriginal un-Americans. The above explanation also makes it clear that we so-called Negroes are not and cannot be American citizens, since we are not American by nature or by race. A true American is one other than the aboriginal race or races that inhabited the Western Hemisphere or the whole planet Earth before the coming of the white man from Europe. We, the so-called Negroes, members of the aboriginal earth and of the tribe of Shabazz, were kidnapped from our native land and peopled by the white Englishmen and Americans. We were brought here not to be made Americans or American citizens, but rather to be slaves or servants for the true American citizens whites who originally came from Europe. We, descendants of the Asiatic nation from the continent of Africa, after 100 years of so-called freedom, cannot claim by the law of justice to be Americans or American citizens. We are un-American, and by nature, we are different. Know from this day on that if you are a so-called Negro, Red, Black, or an Indian, or any member of the Aboriginal Black nation, you are an un-American. Even though you may have been born in the United States of America, you cannot be an American. Used for criminal purposes, what or why are we called un-American? It is to classify us as criminals or with crimes that we are not guilty of. They make the truth God has given to us untruth. They use it to conceal our true intentions. But at the same time, they claim freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and religious freedom lawful under the Constitution. Again, it is abundantly clear to you that have eyes, that the Americans never intended freedom for their so-called Negroes. She stands in the way and opposes true freedom, justice, and equality from coming to the poor black man and woman in the Western Hemisphere. She is pleased with the foolish and ignorant worship of the so-called Negroes. She doesn't ever want the Negroes to accept the true religion, which is Islam. Why? Here, in Islam, the Negroes have a true God and true friends on his side, and that means help to the poor Negroes against his open enemies, the white race. So you can see, or you will see, why they do not want a so-called Negro Muslim people in America. It means independence, friendship, divine guidance, and help against the devils. As it is written in the Holy Quran, know that Allah is with the Muslims. Trick the Negroes to stay in devils' names. For the first time, the so-called Negroes are awakening to just why white Americans still like to call their much-hated and despised, once Negro slaves, after their names, or make the Negroes think names do not mean anything, that they should remain in them. The devils have knowledge of the time. They know you will not be accepted by God, or your own nation if represented under their names, which are not names of God, and will not see the hereafter. The intellectual so-called Negroes think it is a disgrace to them to not be called by the slave master's name, and if I wanted to be called Muhammad, I should go to court and have my name changed legally. I laughed and said, I'm sorry, I have my legal name. There is no law to make me pay to be called by my legal name. I have been called by an illegal name. Now I have gotten rid of that illegal slave name for a legal and holy name of God. Again, we must remember, the white race never intended anything like good for you. They are not seeking well for you today. Death is really their aim for you. Why do they oppose our struggle for justice and freedom if they want to see all people free and enjoying justice and equality? They are not referring to you. You are not people in their eyes. It is their people they are referring to. Why do they oppose separation of us into a state or territory of our own, since we cannot live in peace with them? When we read of the evils done to us and to our fathers by this race of devils, we cannot foresee anything in them but evil, hatred, and murder for us and to our unborn children. Read some of their books on what went on against our slave parents by the fathers of these modern murderers of ours. For instance, the book entitled Brown Americans by Edwin R. Embry, printed 1946, page 54, tells the story of laws against education for the so-called Negroes. He quotes a devil, Henry Berry, as saying while speaking in the Virginia House of Delegates in 1832, describing the situation as existed at that time in many parts of the South. We have, as far as possible, closed every avenue by which light may enter the slaves' minds. The avenue of the light of Allah you are unable to shut out from coming to us. If we could extinguish the capacity to see the light, our work would be complete. They would then be on a level with the beasts of the field and we should be safe. I am certain that we would not do it if we could find out the process, and that on the plea of necessity. The above words, desires, and works against you are still in the hearts of their evil, bloodthirsty children against you. Today, they go around in large cities like Chicago, at night, in cars, loaded with baseball bats, guns, iron pipes, and knives to pounce upon and kill poor, harmless so-called Negroes. We are living under the very shadow of death in such a place as America. Unity under the guidance and protection of Allah will bring an end to this horrible situation. What do you see as a future in them for you and your children? Nothing but hell. Remember, if you are black or a member of the black nation, you are un-American. If you want equal justice and a decent way of life to live, or have love for the black people, you are un-American. The American is the only one that can sing. The land of the free it is for the white Americans.